This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Ezio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik for the touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go. It's good to be back in the studio. Brandon Rowe, married, back in the studio at least for a few days, and then he has another wedding to go to later on this week. I'm David Smoak. I was out yesterday, and what a day to be out. My goodness. With all of what happened in college football, we'll try to get to what wasn't discussed yesterday and also look ahead to this week. Paul Catalina is here. Craig Smoak is here. And we have college football bangers this week, and there are a few of those. We'll also later in the show announce the winner of the week number 7 college football pick'em contest brought to you by North Star Funding Partners. We'll do that and much more. So here is, well, there's 2 pregame shows in college football. This one, Fox, the big noon kickoff will be in Provo, Utah for BYU and Utah, the Holy War. I printed out, I just said, I'm going to print out what the history is. And we know some of it. We've discussed some of it with former players, et cetera. It was 25 pages of Wikipedia. And I just, you know me, I love to kill trees. It's like you could use it as a weight. So that's coming up on Saturday, and what a game that should be.
Yeah, it's, I was kind of hoping it would be at night, but, big noon is big noon, and that's good for them. It's good for BYU to have this to host. I saw, it was funny to me to see a bunch of, people kind of mad about it when they found out that game day wasn't going to be there because they clearly forgot that Big Noon exists and also has the rights to their games. So, this is really cool for them. And it should, I'm glad that Fox is doing this, is spending some time highlighting one of the better games in the country this week that's in the Big 12 and should be an absolute doozy. I mean, it was last year, it should be again. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great spot for Utah and BYU to have a little bit of a showcase. So 2 major pregame shows, and sometimes we see that they end up at the same spot, and sometimes they go their separate ways. And glad that one of them decided to make their way to Provo this week for what should be a hell of a game. I think Utah's probably thankful it's not at night, just one less thing to have to deal with, even though that BYU crowd will still be great during the daytime. I just think you add that night element, and that's always a little bit more daunting for whoever you are. So there should be some great coverage for the Big 12 this week based on this setup and all the cast and crew. I haven't watched much Big Noon this year, but I'm sure they'll have a lot of fun, and hopefully the game is as good as we all expect it to be, because I'm expecting it to be one of the closer, better, more talented matchups in the Big 12 possible this year based on what we've seen so far. And I think the winner's going to feel really good about their spot in the race in the Big 12 after this weekend.
Yeah, they should. And it's good that Big Noon Kickoff has now been to 3 different Big 12 games and setups as they continue to show the coverage. We talk about how TNT's brought a lot to the table. Game day is going to be usually an SEC game, and that's where they'll be in Athens, Georgia for that game with Ole Miss and Georgia. The Holy War started back in 1896. Utah leads the series. It depends on who you ask, either 62-36-4, or according to BYU, 59-33-4. But BYU's won the last couple of games, including last year with that tug that heard around the world. Kalani Sitake saying no matter what the two schools or others think of each other, this game is important for both schools. It's healthy, too, for both schools.
Well, Kalani's got a great perspective because he's lived on both sides of it, as have a lot of people on his staff and a lot of people on the other staff, and just everybody involved with this rivalry has almost like familial ties to both sides of it. So there is very much that like familial hatred or dislike that you can develop in rivalry and competition and all that. And there's a very personal element to some of it for some people as well. But I do agree they're very much kind of different in their own ways, but there's a lot of similarities as well, especially when you get into the football side of it and you see all of the coaches and players who have coached both places or played both, or I guess since we have seen that now at this point, but especially in the coaching ranks, there's been a lot of back and forth, but that is a rivalry that I think has started to, with the Big 12 affiliation, really get a boost in the last couple of years. And I only expect it to continue to keep getting a bigger spotlight each year. And especially if both teams are going to be good, the way that both teams are good this season. I mean, it certainly helps that you've got the history that you have, but it helps even more so when this is a critical game for the top of the Big 12 standings alongside Tech, or right there next to Tech, or right underneath Tech. And it's also a highly ranked game in a weekend where there are a bunch of those. But for this one, it's just got so much uniqueness to it that I think so long as they both keep their heads above water and both have the great head coaches they have, like the Holy War could be the flagship rivalry of the conference for years to come. And certainly one of their bigger TV draws.
By the way, it's Big Noon Kickoff. The kickoff is at 7 o'clock Central on Fox. So we got to get that right as far as the kickoff time. Here is Kalani Sitake on how these two teams need each other.
Whether we want to admit it or not, we actually need each other. This is a great rivalry when we have each other on the schedule. And regardless of the outcome this weekend, I mean, there's a lot of different things that can happen that will probably need each other's help.
There you go. It's just, he's like you said, he could put most anything into perspective and do it in a classy way.
Yeah, you're right. It's 7 o'clock. I guess I just had it in my brain that it was Big Noon, so that they were playing. And I've looked at the schedule and I've seen that. I don't know why it just didn't translate. So yeah, that's my fault.
Yeah, I thought usually the Big Noon,
the Big Noon kickoff game.
They just go right from where they're sitting into the broadcast.
Yeah, so I mistook that. That's my fault for just blanking on that. But yeah, so I guess forget it. It is a night game, and so that's definitely going to be a feather in BYU's cap. Although it's not the end all be all as we saw last year in Salt Lake City, but everything else I said stands pat. So yeah, my fault there, but. That now adds a little bit extra to this game. I didn't think it really needed much of it, but certainly having a night crowd involved will put a little bit more mustard on there for you.
All right, so we have that, and we appreciate. We got a couple of Utah and also we have Utah and BYU fans, of course, who are in the chat too and enjoying the early parts of what we talk about today.
I want to go back to something Craig said about being the premier rivalry in the Big 12. Really, I mean, the Big 12, the Big 12 being that it's so new, you're the ones that it kind of came into the last couple of years with, like Farmageddon, which needs to be permanent.
Okay,
Sunflower
if the AD from one half of the Farmageddon's not going to respect it and make it a big deal, then nobody else needs to try and act like it's that big of a deal, I guess. Or we need to and push Jamie Pollard out of the way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, they don't even acknowledge it fully themselves, unlike this one.
So, I guess that's all the rest of us. But, yeah, so this one, though, very fully acknowledged, and there's so much vitriol between the two sides that, this is the new Texas OU of the Big 12. Like, you have to lean into those things. Like you said, they need each other because when you, like, rivalry games are what's going to, like, continue to drive a lot of this. And with all these new conferences, you can try to create new rivalries all you want, but they have to happen naturally. They have to happen over time. They have to happen for a reason. There have to be moments, right? You have to have all those things. And so the Pac-12 learned that the hard way when they tried to shove the new teams into rivalries of this is who your rival is. And they're like, all right. I mean, I can't just feel the way you want me to feel about this. So these are the things they need to build on, and they need to make sure that those things are. For example, to me, I think Texas Tech and Houston needs to be. I hope that one gets good over time, and they throw gasoline on it, because I think those two fan bases could genuinely hate each other in a fun way.
Someone asked me today about the Texas schools playing each other. Tech doesn't play Baylor this year, and again, the super conference is not the super conference, but the expansion has thrown everything into kind of a disarray because of algorithms running it. They don't have feelings and they don't understand traditions. So there are going to be some that just don't continue on, but that one better never stop.
Yeah. I mean, Texas Tech doesn't play TCU or Baylor.
Yeah.
So they don't play two of the potential biggest rivals on their schedule. And that sucks. And there is some history there. The best rivalry you've got where the people actually involved lean into it is Baylor-TCU. And I think if you've followed the Big 12, you've seen sort of the close history there, and you kind of get some of that bad blood. But I think BYU and Utah is that just turned up about 20 notches. So, yeah, I think it's become the replacement for Texas OU in so many ways, and I think it'll continue to be that way. And, I mean, I'll push back a little on Houston Tech. I mean, I get where you're coming from, Paul, but, I mean, that's way more likely in basketball than it is in football to be any kind of rivalry. I don't think anybody's really like, man, give me Houston Tech in football. We got to see it here recently, but – I mean, there's rivalries that they've tried to make or that haven't worked out, and some that sometimes can just occur naturally. But this is exactly what you asked for. So it ought to be a great weekend for both programs, especially whoever emerges victorious.
Yeah, and one of the things about certain rivalries, the Baylor-TCU rivalry, both private schools and right around the corner, but I also think two coaches that are no longer there. The rivalry is still there, but not quite what it used to be when they were fighting for the same players and recruits as well, although they might still be doing that. Kenny Dillingham on Sam Levitt. This is from Chris Karpman. He covers Arizona State. We've had him on the show many different times. Today, live tackling with his second team versus 11 on 11 for the first time. Dillingham unhappy with the team's lack of physicality against Utah, saying as well that Sam Levitt was also working out today, practicing when they went 11 on 11 as they get ready for Texas Tech. And here is Kenny Dillingham on Sam Levitt and his availability this week.
Status quo. I mean, we're going to find out more Tuesday, Wednesday. I know people think like there's no gamesmanship here. This is just purely being honest. And sometimes when you're honest, people create fake things because sometimes honesty is just rare. So I think the fact that we're being honest with this situation is making people uncomfortable. The reality is he's day-to-day. We're going to find out when we move him around on Tuesday and Wednesday's practice if he's good enough to play on Saturday. So I'll have more of an update come, mid this week.
All right, so last week they were saying the same thing. Did he play? No, he did not. No. Sims did, right? He wasn't playing mind games. Huh?
If you want to call it
that. No, unfortunately for that young man. So he said that last week, and there were people saying, oh, that's gamesmanship. I think Kenny Dillingham wishes he could get in front of the camera and go, God almighty, Sam Levitt's playing for us. We can't wait. And we're glad he's back on the field with us.
Yeah, I don't really know that I came across any of those types of tweets last week. Granted, I wasn't really looking around all that much, but if there were people that were of that thought process that he needed to do that, I guess why? To fool Utah to get some advantage? Is that what the big grand idea by some of these people were? I don't think he really needed to do that. I think Arizona State could have just rolled in with a healthy Sam Leavitt and wasn't in a spot where they would have felt the need to try and fool Utah in any way, shape, or form with Sam Leavitt's status. So I think that's a real reach on the part of people thinking that was some kind of a ploy. I always took it as, why would you do this if it wasn't super serious? I took it for what it was at the very beginning because it was seemingly out of nowhere. It was also late in the week, so it wasn't like the Mateer thing where we're talking about it for will he, won't he, will he, won't he? We talked about it for like 2 or 3 days, maybe that long, and then he didn't play. And he was in a boot on the sideline. So much for the conspiracy theory that he was trying to get some sort of advantage. And I mean, it certainly didn't fool Utah at all because, I mean, Sam Leavitt doesn't play and they just absolutely dominated that game in every shape, form, and fashion. So they weren't deterred or affected by it in any way other than they just feasted on Arizona State as a result of Sam Leavitt not playing. So I take him for what he's saying. I do believe there's gamesmanship that goes on, but I think in this case, it's something that just crept up or popped up and was lingering that suddenly became far more serious, and they had to address it head on. And it's just that the timing sucks, man. I mean, your 2 biggest games arguably on the schedule last weekend, a total because of the fact that Sam Leavitt didn't play in that game. Now, maybe they still would have kicked their ass. I don't know. But at least we would have had like the buildup for it, and it wouldn't have been, oh, damn, now Jeff Sims is starting quarterback? Like, that killed the momentum before we even got kickoff. And then, with this game this weekend, I really hope he plays because I want to see Tech play the best teams. I want to see Arizona State play the best teams with their best guys. I don't want to see the backup quarterbacks selfishly. So I've been looking forward to Arizona State, Texas Tech for like 6 weeks now, and we're going to get here, and then Sam Leavitt's not even playing? Like, come on, man.
I'll also tell you this. If you think it's gamesmanship, you clearly don't know who Jeff Sims is, because if they had said, oh, yeah, Sam Leavitt's playing, and then they scratched him before the game, and then you told Kyle Whittingham and staff, oh, by the way, Jeff Sims is starting, they're going to be, is it my friggin' birthday? Like, yeah. I mean, like, oh, yeah, really? Great.
That young man obviously is a very good study. He obviously works really hard. It's just that it doesn't connect in game times. And we've seen that in multiple locations now over multiple years. And I feel for him to some extent. But, yeah, I mean, once that happened, Utah, I mean, you saw the spread and what it went. We got a freaking stock price. Yeah, it went like a stock price overnight. It just shot right up because everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall there. So I hope Sam Leavitt's good for this weekend. I have my doubts seeing him in a boot a week ago, but it would be best for everybody if he could play. But we'll see, because best for him is to certainly look out for his long-term future and not just a short-term gain.
As I mentioned, he ran first team in Arizona State's first 11 on 11 of the week. And then Joey McGuire, and this is, of course, Baron Morton. My goodness, he gets beaten up and comes back and all, and they have the great backup in Hammond. Baron Morton, day-to-day, feels a lot better than he did after the Arkansas Pine Bluff game when he had an injury to the same area. The toughest kid I've ever coached in Baron Morton. Can't imagine he will not play, but they have a really good option with Will Hammond, who, again, last week came in and did his thing, which he can because he can run and throw.
Yeah, as I said yesterday, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, but Baron Morton's like the most hurt but not injured guy, or one of the most hurt but not injured guys in college football, where he keeps getting dinged up, and luckily they're up in games or comfortable enough where it hasn't affected them. But, yeah, it seems like it's been just one kind of, I guess, minor thing after another that's cost him some action here and there, but not cost them ultimately. So if he's available to play, that's great. But yeah, it's a weird kind of trend where he keeps getting pulled out of these games. And part of the reason why you feel good pulling him is because you're usually leading and you usually feel like you're in control of these games. But yeah, he's been fortunate to not have it be anything more serious, given how often we've seen him have to get checked out. Like, he's like 0 for 3 on major injuries, so that's good news. You just hope that holds for his sake and for Tech's sake, and I know they feel good about Hammond if they have to turn there. But I do think that it's one thing to see a guy in spot duty. It's another thing to see a guy suddenly be like the starting quarterback on a run of games. So they're good, I think, as far as depth goes compared to a lot of other schools. But, yeah, like I said, I want to see best on best, so hopefully Baron Morton's able to to play, and it looks like he will be able to. So that's good news.
Kim Coulter saying that he thinks that they held him out for the Arizona State game without tiebreakers and something. Why would you not want him to play in a game that if you lose, then the tiebreakers do kick in? Why? I don't understand. If he could have played last week, I'm sure that he would have absolutely played.
But he was playing. He was playing in the game. So if you're going to hold him out, then why not just, hold him out? Because he played last week.
But you don't hold him out of that game so you could have him for Tech, do you? That's what he's saying.
Though. You mean you're talking about Sam Levitt?
No, yeah.
Oh, well, no, I think no. I don't think that I think they had
what? We were talking about Baron Morton.
We're talking about Baron Morton.
No, okay. I was pivoting onto that one.
No. If you're talking about Sam Levitt, here's why I disagree with that. Because you got Utah and Tech back to back. I think it's a calculated decision of we either don't have it, like we either play him for Utah and he gets hurt early, and then we definitely don't have him for Tech, or we just sit him down and hopefully have him for Tech. Because either way, there's a chance they don't have him for both games, right? Especially if he's in the boot last week. So I don't think that they were saving Sam Levitt against Utah because they're worried more about Tech. I think that they knew that he couldn't play, and the risk of playing against Utah means definitely he's not going to play against Tech.
Yeah, I don't know why you would sit out the game you're more likely to win just to play in the game you'd be more likely to lose. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. So I think he was legit hurt. I don't see anything that you would gain from holding him out last week because he could go play against Tech and get hurt right away, right? So you risk maybe losing a game that you could have won with him just to try and win the game after that. So yeah, I don't exactly jive with that. I think he's legit hurt. The boot was on his foot for a reason, and hopefully the signs from practice are all continuing to be positive, and he gets to play in full this weekend because that's going to be the best game that we can see is if Sam Levitt's the quarterback at Arizona State, because that alternative last weekend, part of it was your opponent in Utah, but part of it was also that you had a major downgrade at quarterback, and it affected everybody else, including a guy like a Jordan Tyson, who I said yesterday could go from being a Biletnikoff frontrunner to not even a finalist if Sam Levitt were to have to miss multiple games. I think it was precautionary and just not trying to put him out there and then have him further hurt it and not be able to play ever again.
Yeah, not just season. Against Tech, but also against maybe multiple teams. Here's an image of college football logos. These are teams that are both in the top 30 in scoring offense and top 30 in scoring defense. Among those schools, some of them have played each other. For example, Texas Tech beat Utah and Indiana beat Oregon. They are all a combined 45-3. The only loss other than the ones I mentioned was Missouri losing to Alabama this past weekend. So those schools right there are top 30 scoring offense and also play really good against the offense that they're playing on defense.
Yeah, I saw this today, and I was like, sometimes I love to see these graphics, and then there's some random outlier who somehow has a terrible record because they're just unlucky, and they haven't given up many points.
Well, they have horrible special teams.
They're just bad luck teams. No, all these teams are legit. You don't want them rolling in. You don't want Memphis rolling in. You don't want Utah, Indiana, none of them. You don't want them rolling in because they do everything well on both sides of the ball. But yeah, I thought when I first looked at it, I'm like, all right, let me pick the outlier here that doesn't make any sense. And you'll be like, oh, wow, man, that's a real bummer for Cal that they're good in both these things, where they keep losing close, low-scoring games or something like that. But so far, those teams are just all legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all good teams. Why are they good? Because they're on this list. And they've got top 30 offenses and defenses. So, yeah, it's a good group of schools there when you have both those things going for you. And so long as your special teams isn't completely off the rails like y'all referred to, then, yeah, you'd expect to be winning a lot of games. And that's certainly what these group of schools are doing right now. And I like the fact that the three Big 12s are round robining each other as far as each one's going to play the other two. And I think that is the three best teams in the league right now, with Arizona State minus Levitt. I think had he stayed healthy, see what that game last weekend might have looked like. Maybe I'd have Arizona State in that grouping as well. But I think with them taking a clear hit and Iowa State falling back to earth, it's those three are the three best teams in the league, and I'm glad that they can all play each other. And we're not going to have Tech doesn't play either one of them, or Utah doesn't play either one of them. Thank God we avoided that, and that they'll all three have to play each other. That'll be great. Which
is what, again, those algorithms can spit some things out, and sometimes it's just the way it falls. By the way, note in the chat room, Missouri, they at Alabama was a hell of a game.
Yeah, it was.
Hell of a game. They have played 6 games, and they have not left Missouri. They have played all their games at home. Now, we know that sometimes the non-conference games, you can play 3 or 4 of them at home. They still do. They have at Auburn, at Vandy, then A&M and Mississippi State at home, and then at Oklahoma and at Arkansas. But they have played 6 games, and they have not played a game away from where they are in Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah, I feel like we probably talked about that when we did the schedule previews over the summertime. I'm sure we must have mentioned that. And I know there was at least a couple schools where there was a similar storyline. Missouri might have been one of them, but yeah, that's worked out really well for them. It's been a time in college football where you've had opportunities, certain schools, to kind of like massage your schedule a certain type of way. And I think with the SEC having these mandated setups that you have to play, and the rest of the power conferences kind of having these rules starting to become in place already or looming as though they're going to be in place. It's going to be interesting to see how teams try to having a number of home games and have it still work with their schedule, or we won 8 home games this year. Well, good luck making that happen. It's going to be more difficult to do than ever before. And yeah, I don't know how often you'll be able to play 6 consecutive games without leaving your home state if you're Missouri ever again. But it's worked out well for them so far, except for that Alabama game, and they were right there with a chance to win that one. So they're a very good team. Love the quarterback, love the running back. Think there's a lot of good going on there right now. But yeah, they'll get tested starting up. I mean, at Auburn, at Vandy, A&M and Mississippi State at home, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas. So they're still only playing 4 home games the entire year, and it's all in the last 6 of the season. So that is a strange setup, and don't know how usual that will be moving forward.
They didn't put the conference schedule together, but it just happened to be that way. But they got some challenges coming up. But Auburn seems to play everybody pretty well. They just can't win, and they can't get breaks. Sometimes it could be calls, or sometimes it just could be they're not good enough.
Put together a non-con schedule that has 4 home games.
Yep, they did.
So they did do that.
Well, yeah, against Central Arkansas, Kansas, and then Louisiana, UMass after they had played South Carolina, which was a home game. Alabama, which was a home game. Barry Campbell Jayhawk asked whether or not if Missouri and Memphis switch logos, would they both be ranked in the top 25? They are. And I think even if they switch logos with their records, then would Memphis at 5-1 be ranked? I don't know. I don't know, but they're a very well-respected team.
Memphis at 5-1, would they be ranked? They'd be, I think they'd be right on the cusp of it. But they might be out. They might get replaced by Illinois, who's right there receiving a whole lot of votes. So yeah, I think it's a question that's a legit question. It's not a for sure thing. They would still be included. So
with their schedule, if they had lost to Arkansas, even though Arkansas struggles, that might have knocked them out. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Arkansas's fired their coach at this point, so that's not that great of a loss. But yeah, I mean, I'd still think they'd be in the others receiving votes at worst. But yeah, probably in that group rather than in the top 25, since they're at 22. And yeah, Illinois would probably get the benefit of the doubt over them.
Brett McMurphy with the odds now. Who are the favorites for the Heisman Trophy? And my goodness, is this thing, it would be, they do the top 25 polls and how they switches throughout the year. This would be one of interest. Tim Simpson was named, as were the others on this list. But Ty Simpson, who was brilliant a couple of weeks ago, and especially made the plays when they needed against Missouri. Carson Beck is back in the chase. There's Fernando Mendoza. My goodness, Indiana has been so much fun. Julian Sayin and Ohio State Buckeye teammate Jeremiah Smith, 1 through 5.
Yeah, these are the guys I would put on the list right now. I mean, Julian Sayin, isn't like ripping up the stat sheet necessarily, and neither is Carson Beck for that matter, as far as like overwhelming stats, but they're all winning, and they're winning a lot. Mendoza, to me, and like my top 2 would be Mendoza and Ty Simpson. But obviously, this is Kalshi and their predictive markets and all those things. But yeah, these guys are all dealing right now. But if I know anything about how this college season has gone, two of these guys won't be on this list in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you blink your eyes, they could be gone.
It's just changing ever so quickly, and all it's going to take is one person to have a massive breakout game, and one person to have like say Jeremiah Smith has a game where he has 3 catches for 38 yards and no touchdowns, even though Ohio State may still win, and then somebody from another school goes 8 for 250, and it like puts their stats over the line, and they shoot up the rankings.
Who was leading this 2 weeks ago? John Mateer.
Yeah.
Gone. Poof. Who led it at the start? Arch.
Yeah.
Gone. So this thing is very much in flux, but there they are for right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see both those guys not even in the top 5 at this point, either Arch or John Mateer, but there's still some time, I think, to scratch back a little bit of that territory, especially with the kind of schedule that an Oklahoma plays. For example, I could see maybe Mateer going back on a hot run, but unfortunately for him, I think he was on a very high-profile stage last week and just I don't want to say wet the bed, but like it's kind of what I'm referring to, though. Like they just did not have a good performance in front of a huge audience of people and Heisman voters, and he in particular did not look good and made some really bad choices and mistakes that proved costly in that game. So it wasn't all on his shoulders, but definitely lost some of his luster. So I think he's going to have to work some of that back. And then for Arch, I think there's like maybe been an overcorrection to some degree of like you overhyped him. Now you got to underhype him. And now he's got to work his way back as well. And he's got time to do that. I don't think this is a finished list by any means. I do think it's, with all due respect to every single person on this list, especially the Ohio State guys, because they are a bit more flashy, but it is like the least flashy looking Heisman Trophy list of all time. I mean, as far as like,
no, it is.
There's no like super
not,
Travis Hunter type dude, or I mean, again, Smith's a freak. Saying Mendoza, all these guys are very, very good, but it's not like a I don't know, it's not like a blockbuster list.
Yep,
like I'm usually used to with the Heisman, and maybe I just need to readjust how I kind of see some of these guys.
There's a few guys that could sneak back into that, and Arch gave himself not a chance for right now, but with what he did against Oklahoma and their schedule they have remaining, there's some games where he can put up some big numbers if they are actually going to be in a groove here. That's
not a knock on these guys, or it's not even a bad thing. If this stays pat, then that means that Miami and Bama and Ohio State and Indiana are all rolling along and they're in the playoff. And yeah, I'd be all for a Fernando Mendoza Heisman Trophy ceremony. I think that would be something nobody could have ever predicted in 200 lifetimes. But yeah, it feels like there's not the usual star power there, but I think that's also kind of the state of college football. Is it's not about just it is about the star power, but it's not about like just that guy. It's about Indiana as a team. It's about Ohio State as a team. It's about Alabama as a team. And these are the faces of it, but there's nobody having just like crazy record breaking seasons. I guess that's more of what I'm getting at is the numbers are not like, wow, holy cow.
Beck's got 1,200 yards, 13 or 11 touchdowns and 3 picks, but they have beaten 3 ranked teams along the way. And so that quarterback's going to always get a little bit more of the love. Earl Campbell, Tyler Rose Award. Every week it's named, and this week I'm not on the ballot, but I get a ballot, and I saw the first couple of 2 or 3 names that were listed by those who voted, and I was like, what about Cameron Dickey? He went freaking nuts in that win.
They threw 14 passes.
Yes.
Because Cameron Dickey was just whoop, 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 like there were a couple
like
times.
Video game.
Yeah. There were a couple of times watching it, I thought that he was just going to turn around and run back and then just run back again.
263.
Just to see if Kansas could actually stop him. Like maybe if I get tired, you guys will catch me. Like
he had a monster game.
Yeah.
2 long touchdowns, 263. Most rushing yards by an FBS rusher this year, most in the Big 12 since Sama went for 276 back in 2023 against Kansas State. So good for him. Great year he's having.
Quentin Joyner, rest up and rehab and get better, but Texas Tech's in fine hands, the running back spot in your absence. And he and Jacoby Williams have both been really, really good. And both guys with a lot of upside and a lot of time left in the saddle, God willing. So, Texas Tech figures to see him clean up a few more awards along the way should things hold. And that was a massive performance on Saturday, so a very deserving winner. There's been a couple weeks where I'm like, well, you could go this way or that way. But, yeah, I think you run for nearly 300 yards on a conference opponent that's not the old – this isn't like Kansas from a few years ago we're talking about where they couldn't stop us if we ran out there against them. This is a Kansas team that has a good head on his shoulders and is well coached. So, yeah, that was a super impressive performance by Cameron Dickey. And another thing that you have to prepare for when you're getting ready for Tech, along with basically everything else at this point.
So remember, they lost Taj Brooks, and they lost the starting running back before the season began, and here they are rolling with Dickey, and also Jacoby Williams have had monstrous games. We're going to hold back on the coaching, the Penn State, Matt Rule, and options, and James Franklin's, what he has to do now if he now that he's fired at Penn State. We'll do that a little bit later on, because that's going to be a little bit more than just 2 or 3 minutes.
By the way, when Cameron Dickey had his first kind of like breakout game a few weeks ago, I Googled whether he and Curtis Dickey were like related.
Somebody just asked that in the chat. No, they're not.
They are not.
No.
But like, and it's not like, to me, I thought it would be his. At first, I thought, oh, maybe that's his kid. I'd be like, nah, it's probably his grandkid. Curtis Dickey's been a long time ago, but no, it's not. Curtis Dickey, the only thing that lists that he's and Ty Warren, former A&M and NFL defensive tackle, is his nephew. Yeah, so that's all I found out. But so
somebody asked that in the chat room. He's from I think Anderson or some Austin High somewhere. Yeah. He's from the Austin area. Mm-hmm. Yeah, from the Austin area. All right. I can hear. I got to say this. I told the guys when I got to the studio today, I got a set of hearing aids that I have in, and they're very comfortable. And I actually hear the blinker on the car when I turn it left or right. It's just it's like unbelievable.
He didn't know that the blinker made a sound. That's how. Yeah. Smokey had no idea that the blinker on the car made. That's how deaf you've been for that long.
Huh? No, I'm serious. Yeah, I had to turn these down. I had to turn my headsets down. It is really a nice change of pace.
Everybody, like I've made fun of you for a long time. I will not make fun of you at all for this. I'm very proud that you did it. I know it was a tough step for you, admitting that you needed them and getting them. But everyone around you, our crew is very grateful. I know Garrett had breathed a sigh of relief. That now that you can hear things.
It is very interesting.
This is huge for our 18 to 34 ratings. The host getting hearing aids. So that's going to be big with the young people.
Yeah.
And really relate on a major level with the young folks. But I mean, sometimes you got to swallow your pride and do what's best. And I think you'll enjoy hearing now, as opposed to whatever it was that you were trying to do.
I bought a pair about 2 years ago. And they just were almost difficult to use and work with. These were higher class. I got them over the weekend. I got them in this morning, and I enjoy them. And it's nice to not have to have this thing cranked all the way up. But the turn signal noise kind of was nice, and it was eye-opening.
That means you don't hear birds chirp, like you don't.
Oh no, I hear everything now.
Well, now, yeah. But if you couldn't even hear the freaking turn signal blinking when it's 6 inches from you every single day, then what else were you missing out on? So I mean, I'm glad that you did that just for your own experience of life. Like, I mean, I think you just kind of walking around mostly deaf for a while. And so, that's a big move. And I know not everybody's willing to do that, because it's like a sign of
they
aging.
Make them where you can't really even tell.
Right.
Also,
so I think it's a good move.
But thank you very much.
Here's part of the reason I saw them is I've honestly been looking every day for about 10 years. To see if you finally did it.
You folks, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea.
How many times have you guys said something and I've not even heard you asking or saying something? I go, hey, wait, we got to do this. Well, we just talked about that. Yeah. Jennifer Smoak said that Golden said that this was like man walking on the moon.
Well, look, you're about to have a grandbaby, and there's a chance that you're going to be in a house with that baby that could be crying.
Yeah,
and
I got to know.
You need to hear. I think it's miraculous. It also, though, when I grew up, I learned to drive in Fort Myers, Florida, which is I'd rather learn to drive in like Chicago or someplace where there's people crazy, because then real things. It's frustrating to learn to drive in South Florida because there are so many retired people down there, and the turn signal thing's a very real thing, because I used to call it the Sarasota left, where the left turn signal is just on the whole time you're driving behind someone. You can't get around them. Yeah. And so you were probably taking some Sarasota lefts.
No. I always know that, because your car will start dinging if you do that. Some S. Michael DeHart, and then we'll come back with our first guest, Ari Temkin. My dad lost his hearing from being a Republic P-47 Thunderbolt flight line engineer and mechanic during World War II. He finally broke down in his late 70s to get hearing aids once the VA paid for them. Proud of you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It is a change. I'm telling you, I've had them on for like 2 hours, and they are a huge change of life.
My granddad was a chief warrant officer in the Air Force, same time period, worked on planes and all those things, was always around them until they finally moved and he got older. They moved him out of the hangar and into a desk job before he retired. But he had hearing aids my whole life. And when I asked him when I was a kid old enough, like, hey, why do you have hearing aids? And he's like, well, the military planes were not made for stealth back then either.
No. It is unbelievable. Yeah. I appreciate it. Audien, Audien, by the way, the company where I bought them, and they have worked very, very well. All right. By the way, last thing, we played in a golf tournament yesterday. John Valade, Corey Dickman, and also Pete Sousa at Ridgewood Country Club. It was the Bootstrap Classic. It was fantastic. I got the logo on my chest. They put on a great show. We had a really good time, so that's why I was out on Monday. When we come back, Ari Temkin, Shahan Jaraja will join us. John Talty will join us too. We'll also have Craig's Off the Radar, the top 5 quizzes, the spinning of the wheel, and poll results. This is 365 Sports. I just received an email while we were on the air from Doug Furch, who is a part of Baylor alumni. And, of course, they have some homecoming notes coming up, activities, not this week because they're playing on the road against TCU. But coming up, they'll have on October 30th from 6 until 8, everybody's invited. Parking will be at the Herd Welcome Center, which is on University Parks on the campus of Baylor when you come off of I-35. Also at the Dutton Garage and much, much more. $100 per person, $800 for a table of 10. You can do that. There's also a 2015 class reunion remix coming up, and even the Golden Grad 50-year reunion that's also coming up, and the 40th reunion for the class of 1985. All of that, there's a cost to it. Go online, go to Facebook, look for Baylor Alumni Awards ceremonies coming up the last weekend in October.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
You have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
Golfballs.com carries the latest selection of golf balls, clubs, and gear from brands such as Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. Golfballs.com remains the world leader in golf customization. And, of course, online at golfballs.com.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
It's back 0% for 72 months on all 2025 Ram 1500 trucks during the Drive into Fall event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab with a massive $16,000 off, or a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $12,000 off, and both at 3.9 for 72 months. And if you drive a Ford, Toyota, or GM, get an extra $1,500 bonus cash. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, joins us most every Tuesday, and there he is with that beautiful studio and the hat on and more. And Ari, my goodness, we got a couple of Big 12 bangers with the BYU-Utah Holy War, Texas Tech, Arizona State. Can't wait. We have evidence from last weekend. These are both should be really fun games.
Yeah, and by the way, I spent today at the Texas State Fair. Had a little day with my wife while the kids were at school at the Texas State Fair. So shout out to the State Fair of Texas, which is always a fun time. When was the last time you guys were there?
It's been a while.
I would think maybe 2008 or 9.
I'll
been a while.
I'll just tell you, Ari, I'm surprised that Fletcher's is still in business given my lack of participation.
I mean, there's a lot of amazing things to eat, and hopefully we don't go on for too long because I may have to, use the facilities at some point. Sorry, what was the question, Smokey?
No, it doesn't matter. Okay, you have 2 games this week. There's all sorts of games. Like Baylor-TCU have their history, but the BYU-Utah, the Holy War, which is the best rivalry in the Big 12. I know K-State, Iowa State would love to continue theirs. But that plus Arizona State, the defending champions who need a win, and Texas Tech, who continues to roll.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've talked about this. I know Craig brought this up at some point too, where like rivalries are so big. And with the Big 12 having lost some rivalries over the years, to be able to gain one, BYU-Utah is huge. And at this point in time, I mean, when you think about where these two programs are meeting in this game for this rivalry in the history, especially on the BYU side, for them to finally be in a power conference, one of the Power 5, Power 4 conferences, it substantiates a lot of this rich history between both of these programs. But yeah, I mean, you've got a really interesting matchup here between 2 very good teams. Obviously, one that's only losses to Texas Tech, and then the other one that's undefeated. And this is by far the best team that BYU has played so far this year. Utah obviously has played Tech, and so maybe they're a little bit more tested. And I think the thing with Dampier, and this is probably true for Bachmeier too to a degree, but I mean, they had in the first 4 drives of their game against Arizona State, Utah had like 30 carries for 7.5 per carry and 3 touchdowns their first 4 drive all on the ground. So when they are doing what they're doing on the ground, they're unstoppable. When you are able to stop that and force Devin Dampier to have to throw, he's not as good of a player. And that's obviously what Texas Tech did. It's way easier said than done because they've got at least three NFL offensive linemen. So again, it just speaks to how good Tech is that they dominated them. But, that's the battle to watch here because BYU is also really good up front. LJ Martin has been a huge reason for Bear Bachmeier's success as a true freshman. Bachmeier, I'm sure you guys have talked about that he in spring football was with Stanford as a true freshman. His first live bullets came in fall camp as a true freshman for BYU in a brand new offense. It's remarkable what he's doing right now. And yeah, he's going through his lumps and growing pains. And, last week BYU was saved in their game against Arizona. Bachmeier fumbled at the 4-yard line. It was retained by a offensive lineman for BYU. So it was just a huge break in the game where if Arizona gets it, they win the game there. So, he's made his mistakes, but he's a gamer. Like he plays a lot better than a true freshman for a 19-year-old that's playing high school football last year. So this is a great matchup. This is ideal for the Big 12, as we've talked about, in terms of having another huge rivalry. And given, again, this is one of the bigger games in the history of the rivalry. I'm not trying to downplay their history, but in terms of stakes, conferences, power level conferences, this is as big as it gets where these two teams are at. So it's a huge game for the conference, obviously a huge game for both these programs in the state of Utah.
Ari, is Arizona State's season maybe hanging in the balance of how healthy they can keep Sam Leavitt, given that the drop-off between him to Jeff Sims is cataclysmic?
Yeah, there were two quarterbacks starting on Monday Night Football last night that were younger than Jeff Sims, by the way. So, look, yes, but also their defense was straight up bad. I mean, again, the stopping the run was a huge issue. I mean, again, I don't have the numbers in front of me. It was like 7.5 per carry on 27 carries and 3 touchdowns their first 4 drives on the ground. Like they just completely did whatever they wanted with Dampier and with Parker and Rogers. Like they just have when they're going, they're going. That's what Utah does. Like it's no secret what they want to do. They're going to lock you down, play man-to-man defense, play press coverage, really be aggressive on defense and run the football. And when they're running and rolling, they're tough to stop. And that's so, yeah, I mean, look, they're at a complete disadvantage in terms of taking the step back they're taking with Sims at quarterback relative to Leavitt. Leavitt is a legitimate NFL prospect. But I also think like this is one of the best defenses and has been in the Big 12. They had 19 sacks going into this game lately in the Big 12. Like they were disruptive and not in this game at all. So I put a lot of that on the defense not showing up in the way that it had all year, especially the defensive line.
So what do you think about them rolling into this game this weekend with Texas Tech?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't know who is built to beat Tech. I mean, Tech can play a lot of different ways. I mean, we saw against Kansas, week 7 was about how well teams ran the football. In a league of quarterbacks, we saw Cameron Dickey break out, have a ridiculous game against Kansas, LJ Martin for BYU. You obviously what Utah's doing on the ground. So, I mean, that was the theme of the week last week. And, so like Tech can beat you through the air. I was surprised. The biggest thing that surprised me about Tech was losing Morton and then Hammond playing as he did. I mean, they won the game because of what Hammond did on the ground, but there was a stretch there where Kansas was very much in it. Third quarter, 21-17, Kansas has the ball, and they gave it back, and they had 2 touchdown drives with Dickey with big runs. But, a lot of it was also with Hammond on the ground. I mean, we saw Hammond against Utah's defense light him up through the passing attack. So I don't know what Kansas was doing to him, but, he was not as good of a passer. He was a very, they can win different ways with injuries, and they're doing it. And I mean, David Bailey is an absolute maniac. He's the best, most explosive player in college football and on the defensive side, and maybe in college football. I mean, his numbers, and you look at any of the analytics, and he's at the front of the chain. I mean, there were multiple times you could just watch him one-on-one, just abusing Kelvin Clements, their left tackle. It was, it's a man amongst boys with Tech. So, I mean, they're, they can win different ways. They're just elite on defense. And especially without Leavitt, like this obviously was a premier game. These 2 straight games for Arizona State in Utah and BYU. And, this was as good as it gets for this conference. And, the injury to Leavitt really put a damper on that.
The Rivalry, I know you're probably not allowed to call it that at the Big 12 office, but I don't care what the TCU Student Council voted. I'm calling it the Rivalry. Baylor and
not
TCU.
The Blue Bonnet Bowl.
No. Oh, gosh.
No, we're not doing that.
I've never wanted to throw a rock through a window harder than when I heard that. Like, what are you doing? You have a cool name.
Yeah.
The Blue Bonnet Battle. Gosh. Ugh. It's hard. Anyway, Baylor and TCU this week, their seasons have kind of gone similarly in that they are good teams, but not great teams. They both have deficiencies that have cost them games. And at least with both of these, it looks like, kind of every week, it's going to take one play that's going to swing the game one way or the other.
Yeah. And I mean, especially like this game is in some ways an elimination game, because if you think about it, maybe TCU is already eliminated in terms of their 2 losses in conference, but for BYU or for Baylor, I mean, I think Texas Tech, like obviously who knows? College football is crazy. Maybe they lose a few games. I don't see them losing more than once, right? I mean, from what we've seen, it'd be surprising for Tech to lose more than once.
Right.
So if you think one spot in the Big 12 championship game comes up to a 1 or maybe even an undefeated Texas Tech, then how many losses is the other team going to have? I mean, so you look at the 1-loss teams, and is it going to be 2 losses? So you start to think about where this is in the hierarchy of trying to win a conference championship. But to your point, I mean, neither of these teams right now in TCU or Baylor look like teams that could win a conference championship. I would say Baylor, though, it's certainly, I mean, what's happened to Hoover here, it was kind of weird. Hoover was rolling, and he was going into that game against Arizona State, and Tim Brando and Devin Gardner kept talking on the broadcast about how underrated and good Josh Hoover was, which, I mean, he was and is, but it feels like in the fourth quarter, he just completely collapsed with turnovers, and Levitt just had a great fourth quarter to win that game from him. And then backing it up, had some brutal turnovers in this game that basically cost them. I mean, that's what really got the floodgates open. There was a against K-State, there was a pass behind the line of scrimmage that Ed Small could have fielded, didn't really pay attention to it, thought it was just incomplete, ends up being a fumble return for a touchdown for K-State. And then K-State got a pick 6 in that game too, back to back. And that, I mean, at that point it was 14-7. So it went to 28-7 with those 2 touchdowns. That was the game there. Then their running game took over. So, Hoover has just not been nearly as sharp. 2 huge turnovers this past week that kind of cost them the game at that point and really turned the game in the tide for K-State. And then in the previous week, in the fourth quarter, really, so he's going through some stuff right now, but obviously he's crazy talented, can make all the throws. But I'd certainly bet on Sawyer Robertson and the Baylor offense. And hopefully at some point this defense can come around a little bit.
So I've got like 3 teams I want to be able to ask you about, but I don't know how to get it all squeezed in here. So let's just focus on the Colorado-Iowa State results so you can kind of tackle both those teams. How much are you now believing in Colorado, not as like some title contender, but just kind of having maybe their mojo back a little bit? And is Iowa State just slipping and not going to be able to recover, do you think?
Well, and one of the things we talked about on the show today was kind of how week 7, like we're always thinking big picture now. Like the playoff has us always thinking big picture, and we have to think like, what does this mean in Tech and blah, how many spots, blah, blah, blah. But like Colorado, just what a great week 7 story. I mean, Dion having his bladder removed this offseason with having bladder cancer, and then he had to have another surgery on Tuesday. I mean, basically a week ago, he had surgery again on, for the blood clots he's been having in his leg. That's continued issues. And they go out there and win a game against a ranked team. I mean, how incredible, like what an incredible story. Dion, man, I mean, there's plenty of ways, I guess, people want to criticize him or whatever, but what an amazing story in college football. And obviously Colorado is not really factoring into most likely the Big 12 championship picture or the playoff, but like, what an incredible win for an incredible season for a coach able to do that, have his team ready to play and beat an Iowa State team that to that point had, lost 1 game and was undefeated before that loss. So I think on the Iowa State side, I mean, Caden Salter at his best game. This comes on the heels of Brennan Sorsby torching Iowa State. Last year, Iowa State was so injured at linebacker, and they were able to kind of overcome that to a degree. I mean, they had so many injuries at linebacker. I think the 2 injuries to corner, losing a couple of all-conference guys, they just, especially with this defense they play, those corners need to really be linebackers and have a very specialty spot in that defense. And it's affecting them. I don't think it's a coincidence, that the last 2 weeks they've just been torched through the air. And that's, but credit to Salter had his best game. I mean, I was starting to wonder if we'd get a look at Julian Lewis with the way that this season had been going for Colorado, being winless in the Big 12. So, big time win for them. And again, I mean, sometimes it's not always about the big picture, right? I mean, sometimes we find some amazing stories in college football.
Normally you see a conference coach of the year with a team that won the title or whatever, even if they were supposed to. Would Satterfield be that this year? Would it be Joey? And again, I know there's a lot of games to be played, but at this point of the season, we're seeing what we saw last year with teams, a couple of them, that weren't supposed to be, based on I don't know who, in the competing for the championship at some point. But Cincinnati is right there looking at you, face to face.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and this is a great question, Smokey, because we can kind of come back to this throughout the year, right? And evaluate, because the more information we have, the better off we're going to be at evaluating this. But yeah, I mean, look, quote unquote buying talent and playing the transfer portal. Like I said to Joey at Big 12 Media Days, like it's on you. Like the talent is there. Now you got to figure out a way to bring a bunch of guys. I mean, in some ways you had mercenaries. I mean, Mello Height is a guy that had been at like 5 different schools and he's a really good player. And Joey's got him playing well. Like it takes a certain coach, and you guys obviously know Joey, like he's the right guy. So, yes, what Cincinnati and Satterfield, I mean, he was definitely on the hot seat and needed this season, and it is working for sure. But at this point, I'd have to give it to Joey because it's one thing to get the talent. We've seen plenty of teams have good talent. It's the coaching that has to bring these guys together in a very short period of time. I mean, most of these guys are coming in. They don't know each other. I mean, Bailey came in late, right? I mean, none of these guys know each other. So, and they're all getting a ton of money. So how motivated are they? So I think, it's easy to look and be like, well, they spent a bunch of money on talent. That's why they're good. It takes a really good coach to get guys to buy in, because football is all buy-in and heart and effort. And there's so much of that if you don't get the team to buy in, it doesn't matter how much talent you have.
Yeah, we'll ask Jimbo Fisher with all the guys.
Exactly. And there's countless examples of that in the NFL and in college football.
Absolutely. Ari, thank you very much. We appreciate it, buddy. Have a great week. Good to see you again.
You guys as well.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Appreciate the text this time, Smokey. You're the best.
Yes, sir. Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. A great guest for us on Tuesdays most every week in the 3 o'clock hour. I think that he's what you can give somebody all the talent, no matter how you acquire it. You got to be able to make it work. There's nothing more of a team sport, I think, than you have when it comes to football, because you have to have all the moves. It just takes one little sullen player or whatever, and they can just throw everything for a loop. And no matter the talent, that's why I've even said Nick Saban should be coach of the year when he was at Alabama. I don't know if he ever won that, because everyone said, well, he's supposed to win. No one is just supposed to win. That's just maybe what we think of a program and the talent they might have.
Nick Saban won the SEC coach 5 times.
Yeah.
So he got recognized, but there were also other teams that won a bunch of national championships while he was coaching too. Auburn won titles, LSU won titles, Georgia won titles, Florida won titles. So it wasn't like he was just King B the entire time, although it felt like it, but he got his, maybe not the 7th and 8th awards that he should have gotten, because they threw like Stoops a bone or something like that for doing a good job at Kentucky. I don't know. I don't have it all memorized, but to the point of like your little prompt here, I think for this year, Joey should absolutely be deserving of it. I think if the pattern were to continue and it's like 3 years from now, it's like, okay, now you just have way more talent than everybody. But I think as far as this year goes, then yeah, he should certainly be the front runner based on the fact that you've got to put the talent together and make it all work. And that we've seen an A&M example among other examples where it doesn't work because the coach is the missing factor there, or the coach didn't put the right talent together the right way, or the coach didn't do a good enough job with said talent. So he's clearly doing all of those things, and they're riding high. And I think they're like a couple weeks away from booking their ticket to Arlington the way things are going. I mean, really, there's a good chance. I mean, if BYU loses this weekend, then everybody Cincinnati would be the only one that wouldn't have a loss at this point in conference play, and there's still another month and change to go. So you'd be a game up on everybody but Cincy. So yeah, there's a very real shot that you could have a spot in Arlington wrapped up in, depending on if the Big 12 cannibalizes itself like it did last weekend, for example. That could happen real quick, to where you're not having to sweat it out at the end. And they do look to be the class of the league right now. And there's a long way to go. Who knows? I mean, people got to stay healthy, but I think Joey's the leading candidate for coach of the year. They're the clear favorite at this point. And I think Tech's going to have to stop itself as opposed to anybody else stopping them.
They ended up blowing away KU. I like the way for them, for Tech, and I'm sure Joey McGuire would say this too, that they got pushed a little bit towards the end of the first half, and all of a sudden KU was like, and you could almost hyperventilate, or then Texas Tech just like scored 3 consecutive touchdowns and blew the game wide open. It was 21-17. They were pushed a little bit and they reacted to it. Now they'll be pushed again by somebody else, and maybe even more difficult late in the game. But I like the way they were able to say, okay, poof, we're gone.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice win for them, and Kansas did give them a little bit of trouble, but Kansas also threw up on itself. I mean, right away. They fumbled on their second drive of the game, and it was 14-0, 15-0 before you even could blink. And so A team cannot afford to do that, but I think even with Kansas not starting off well, the defense forced KU to basically have a punt fest in the first half, and they in the second quarter were able to open that up. But I think given how they overwhelmed KU in that first quarter, KU could have just faded away and not put up much of a fight, but they fought right back and they pushed Tech. And then when Morton goes down, and sure, Hammond had his successes, but it was a little bit wobbly. You're like, okay, wait, so this might open up some interesting doors here. Eventually it was Tech in the end, but there was a moment there where you're going, okay, Kansas, like you got a chance, and you're giving them a little bit of a run that nobody else has really given them much of this year. So we'll see how much people are able to continue to do that. I mean, I thought this weekend would be one of those examples, and I'm not real sure about that now with the Levitt injury, but
yep.
I mean, Tech will get tested at some point, and they got a little bit tested and responded well to it last week.
They absolutely did. When we come back, Shahan Jaraja, John Talty, also CBS Sports around the corner, and much more. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store on Lake Air Drive in Waco, and a great place if you tailgate to get what you need, whether it's this weekend or another weekend. One, they have brisket and they have tri-tip, and they will also, they have sausage that they make inside their store. Chicken wings, yep, they have that. Hamburger patties, sure. Boudin, they have that too. Perfect stuff for a tailgate. And then on top of that, they have charcoal and pellet fuel, depending on what you use to cook your product. Maybe it's an all-night smoker type of deal. They have all the wood chips and more that you need. And on top of that, how do you season it? Do you marinate it? They have all of the seasoning. You get a meat church and much more that they have, along with, of course, what you need with marinades too. It's the Bauer family. They have been feeding people for a long, long time with what they have when it comes to their full-service butcher shop and also the bakery. The store that is like a grocery store, when you walk in the door, they also have fresh cold beer and wine. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store on Lake Air Drive in Waco.
I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients that have made our company a success.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. For details, go to GencoFCU.org.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
If we would have said earlier in the year that the Ole Miss-Georgia game might feature Heisman Trophy hopefuls, I would think maybe people will go, well, wait a minute. Well, Shahan Jaraja joins us, CBS Sports, the people and places that make Trinidad Chambliss, Ole Miss's breakout star quarterback, living his dreams. He has been. That could have been one of those, they blew a tire last week, and, sometimes that happens, but he made the plays in the clutch where they needed to win that game. Shahan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And yeah, I was in the press box at the Red River game with Stephen Hawkins, obviously a good guy down here, who's an Ole Miss grad. And he knew that I had written that story in advance. And he kept glancing over at me like, is he going to ruin your feature? Is he going to ruin all the work that you just put into that? So I'm very glad that they managed to get it done. But Trinidad has been such an incredible story. I got an opportunity to talk to a lot of people around his hometown, around his previous stop at Ferris State. And it's really just an unbelievable story of somebody who was focused on basketball for most of high school and made the transition to the quarterback position at Ferris State University. He had to wait 3 years before he ever started a game at Ferris State, and now he's starting for Ole Miss and has an opportunity to maybe put his name on the map if they can upset Georgia this weekend.
I'm wondering, because there's always trends that start, and it hasn't quite happened at the FCS level just yet where you go and pluck it. But there are guys, Jared Verse and Cam Ward, and now Trinidad Chambliss. I'm wondering how many other coaches that haven't done this, now that they've seen it work a couple of places, especially at quarterback, will go and get a guy like him who started and is a senior to be on their team now, because you have a veteran backup at the worst.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that you've started to see this trend specifically at the quarterback position a little bit lately, right? I mean, you have Jacob Zeno come in at Texas A&M. You have Matthew Caldwell come from Troy to Texas this year. I think that especially as quarterback depth becomes at a premium, teams are willing to spend a little bit in order to bring in a high-quality backup. Now, some of these guys, of course, do hit, like, of course, what Trinidad Chambliss has done to this point, but most are just going to be valuable rotation pieces. But the other thing, too, is I mentioned Ferris State is a Division II program. They've won 3 of the last 4 national championships, probably the best overall program in the sport right now. After the spring, they had 8 players transfer up to the FBS level. That's, by the way, not the FCS level. They jumped 2 levels to FBS. So there's an understanding that there's some really good football being played at the small college level, and the coaches that manage to identify those guys the best are some of the ones who are going to have the most success.
Encourage everybody to go read Shahan's story over at cbssports.com. Let people read it for themselves, obviously, but what was maybe a thing that you'll take away from that you learned, or just the experience in writing it that'll stand out to you moving forward?
Well, I think that it was just kind of the community that helped build them. What sort of stood out to me was you just kind of see these pieces stacking on top of each other, right? You have this piece of growing up as a competitor and learning what he did on the basketball court, and then that gets added to learning what he does in the weight room at Ferris State, which has produced some of the strongest players, frankly, in the NFL. Like, that's not an exaggeration. And then you add that to, of course, the experience that he got working in an option-based system where obviously they throw the ball a whole lot more because Chambliss has that in his arsenal. Like, you just see these pieces start to add up year over year, and all of a sudden this guy who, again, I spoke to his high school coach. On the basketball court, he was probably looking at being an NAIA type recruit. On the football field, people liked him a little bit as an athlete, but didn't see much of a future for him at quarterback. Well, you start to see these pieces all come together. And so when you see Trinidad Chambliss play at Ole Miss, I think you almost see while he plays all these pieces of his past wrapped up into him.
Man, it's going to be a banger of a game on Saturday. Cannot wait for that one. But yeah, great article, Shahan. And I guess nothing else going on this week. But no, in all seriousness, let's just start with the biggest news. Where were you? What was your reaction when you heard about James Franklin and Penn State? And now what are your thoughts here a couple days removed about just the whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I was in my parents' house and I was trying to focus on some other stuff, and then I got that notification across my timeline, and I was like, hey, I might have to step aside for just 1 second.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we, in so many ways, live in a pre-Jimbo world, and now we're in a post-Jimbo world, where all of a sudden, after a team finally pulls the Band-Aid off and pays a $70 million buyout, it gives other programs and teams permission to do the same. Obviously, I mean, we talk so much about it, but there had been, I believe, only one other buyout ever paid that was more than $20 million, and that was Gus Malzahn's at Auburn. This one is $50 million, so more than double any non-Jimbo buyout historically. And this is the thing that gets really interesting about it, right? Is that, yeah, you make that firing, you decide that you want to go in a new direction. I think that makes at least some sense. But now all of a sudden, you're sitting in a position where, one, mid-season, you've got this great expensive roster that they're going to have to figure out. And two, and more importantly, you're going to have to find a guy who's not just better than James Franklin, but gives you $50 million more value than what James Franklin brought to the table. So that's not going to be easy. That's going to be a lot of pressure to put on whoever comes next. And ultimately, it's something that stood out to me a whole lot, not just when Franklin was fired, but also before, is Penn State has not won a national championship since 1986. They've been defined for their entire history by one coach, of course, that being Joe Paterno, and he's a top 5 coach in the history of college football. Well, what is this program outside of the greatest coach, one of the top 5 greatest ever, and one of the highest floor coaches in history? I don't know the answer to that question. Is this a program that should expect to win Big Ten and national championships? We're going to find out.
You are telling the new coach, so Zach Barnett wrote this earlier, that 10 wins is where you start, not where you get to. That's where you start. So you said it, the highest floor coach. He was the highest floor coach. And for whatever reason, he didn't get it done. And then everybody in Happy Valley in a month just got like, they're done with James Franklin. You can like him, not like him, but his results were hard to match. And now somebody else is going to get him too, and his floor will be 10 wins there too, I'm sure, because he's that kind of coach. But it's going to be hard. So if you're Curt Cignetti or Matt Rule, and I know that like Matt Rule loves the school and all, but if I'm advising him and say like, why don't you stay at Nebraska, because they're asking you to come in and win, basically win 11 games next year.
Well, no, and that's sort of the interesting situation, right? Is like they wanted to break through their glass ceiling, but it sort of opens things back up, right? Like there's no guarantee that they're going to be able to maintain this pace that they were on. Now, at the same time, of course, there's a chance that somebody comes in, finds different sort of advantages and manages to have these up and down seasons. But this was a conversation we were having to a certain extent about Ryan Day last year, right? Do you deal with kind of the lack of ebbs if you are, of course, maintaining a certain level? And, Ryan Day obviously got over the top. This was the year that James Franklin was tasked with getting over the top with the amount that they invested in the program. But, I mean, again, it's a tough situation to be in for whoever comes in. But, I go back to what I just kind of mentioned. So this year in 2025, I don't have the exact number that their roster costs, but it's probably $25 million or something in that range, right? So they put a lot into this team. They paid to keep Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, Drew Aller, Danny Dennis-Sutton, a whole bunch of other players. They added Trevor Pena via the transfer portal. Like this team was ready-made to go compete for a national championship. And of course they flop. The 3-3 is the worst start by a preseason number 2 team since 1965 Oklahoma. So it was 100% a flop that will cost this program a lot of money. Now, the question does become heading forward. If you waste a $25 million roster, does that mean that it's worth it to pay $50 million to get rid of you? That's going to be a question that not just Penn State's going to have to ask, but a lot of programs are going to have to ask. Wisconsin's going to have to ask, is it worth paying $25 million to make Luke Fickell go away? Florida State, with some of what they're going to, obviously, are going to have to ask some of these questions. So it's created a whole new dynamic, of course, in college football right now. And it's, it's sort of something that I don't think can be put back in the Pandora's box.
I wonder if there was just such a misery index with the Franklin was miserable. He was being more and more, he's got rabbit ears, but some coaches do. But would you make that move, Shahan, if you're the AD, if you didn't already have somebody you knew was going to say yes?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, right? So, I mean, one thing to keep in mind when it comes to all of this is that there is offset provisions in his buyout, right? So let's just say, for example, that he gets a job paying him $7 million next year. Well, that's less money that you have to pay him. So when you hear the $50 million number too, that's important context. That's by the way what made Jimbo Fisher's contract one of the most ridiculous contracts ever signed in the history of contracts, because it did not have offset. He just gets to collect that money. He doesn't have to look for another job. You don't get any relief from it. James Franklin's buyout, it's going to be a little different. So I think it was worth having a conversation about, should we move on? Is it time to move in a new direction? I think that for me, I would have tried to, find him, I guess, a soft landing spot. It's sort of like what you saw a couple years ago with Scott Satterfield in Louisville, where you're kind of like, hey, maybe you want to go take the Cincinnati job, Shaka Smart at Texas. Maybe you want to go take the Marquette job, whatever. And because, again, it would happen, right? Like there would be an opportunity, certainly, for one of these other programs to take him on. Now, maybe James Franklin wasn't receptive to that, and you have to then make the tough decision. But, I get the idea of thinking it's time to move on. 11 years is a long time for a coach to be at any place. But like you said, you kind of have to figure out, are you confident that you can do better than this? And are you confident that this monetarily is going to have you winning in the long run?
Shahan, there's a bunch of great games. I mean, bangers, ranked teams like LSU Vanderbilt's very intriguing. Obviously, you've got the Georgia Ole Miss game. But what are your thoughts on Holy War? And we were talking earlier about this is kind of now but it really is like the premier rivalry in the Big 12 as far as big business and big eyeballs and both teams being relevant and good. What do you make of an undefeated BYU playing host to a Utah team that just demolished a limitless Arizona State, and how it all plays into probably who plays Tech in Arlington here coming up in 6 weeks or so?
By the way, I hope that Baylor and TCU hear everything that you just say, and because they got to step it up. It's very disappointing that this is not a bigger game this weekend, but so I think that this game this weekend, BYU versus Utah, has a very good chance to be a play-in game to play Texas Tech in Arlington. I think these are the second and third best teams in the Big 12 in whatever order you want to put them in. I think that both of them are rolling right now. I think both of them are legitimate top 15 teams in the country. I think that either of them have a case and a pathway to make the college football playoff if they win this game. So this is a huge matchup. When I look at the BYU side of things, I've loved what I've seen from Bear Bachmeier. And I think that there's, potentially another gear there that we got to see pieces of during the Arizona game. And defensively, this team is obviously playing at a very high level right now. Well, for Utah, I mean, I think that the Texas Tech game skewed some people's perceptions of them, because this is still one of the scariest trenches teams in the Big 12. It just so happens that they played the scariest trenches team in the Big 12. They're playing at a very high level on the offensive line. They were able to run the ball all over Arizona State with ease. So this is a great matchup. It's best on best in so many cases, be it Utah's offensive line against BYU's defensive line, be it Utah's running game against BYU's running defense, be it even if you want to point to BYU's receivers against Utah's great defensive backs. There's so many great matchups in this game, and I think that means that there's going to be so many different ways that this game can go. I think that ultimately BYU manages to ride the emotions of this game and gets the job done, but really anything could happen.
Shahan Jaraja with us, CBS Sports on Tuesdays, normally around 4 o'clock.
What's your favorite game this week? Because there's some good ones with its USC and Notre Dame, which actually might be a good game. There's Ole Miss and Georgia. There's all those. Bama, Tennessee. Which one's your favorite?
Yeah, well, I will say the Holy War is probably my favorite of all these games, but I will be keeping a very close eye on Ole Miss at Georgia. This is, I think, a game where you kind of establish who's going to be the true contender in the SEC, and Georgia showed some real flaws through the first couple of weeks of the year. I mean, you look at that Auburn game, frankly, they should have lost that game. You look at the way that Ole Miss is playing right now. They managed to win a close game against number 4 LSU. They managed to keep things going, and now you kind of have a prove-it spot for your season, going on the road in a tough environment against the historic class of the Southeastern Conference. So I think that this is a huge spot for them. If Ole Miss is able to win this game, I think that you have to put them right there with Alabama as the co-favorites to win the SEC. But another game that that you mentioned as well is I think USC Notre Dame is also very much a good on good game. I think that this is a huge game for Notre Dame. Obviously, they lose two very, very close games against teams that are now in the AP top 6. Well, this I think has been a blessing for them that USC has managed to pull through and ultimately looks like a very legitimate Big Ten contender. I think that they need a few of these games, especially this one, to turn into a high quality game to offset those close games that they had early in the year. And for USC, I mean, Jaden Mayava at quarterback is playing as well as anybody in the country. If you look at a lot of key metrics and rankings, they rank number 1. And I think it was incredibly impressive that USC's trenches were able to really bully Michigan in that game last weekend in a 31-13 victory. So huge game for both these programs, a similar deal. I mean, this is the great part about the way that college football is structured right now with the 12-team playoff is that every single week it feels like there are kind of early playoff games, and both of the ones that I just mentioned, I think, are versions of that.
Is also Vanderbilt-LSU, which could be interesting. Vanderbilt favored for the first time against LSU since 1948. How about that nugget?
Man, I didn't realize that we had formalized betting lines all that way far back. But no, I mean, it's crazy, right? I think that, this is an interesting matchup because LSU has been phenomenal on defense, especially in the secondary. And it's actually the offense that's had some issues. LSU's going to have to prove that they can run the ball against a quality opponent. And Clark Lee's built up a fantastic defense at Vanderbilt. So huge game for both these teams. I think that for LSU, it's very much a must win. But for Vanderbilt, it's a huge prove it spot.
Shahan, also, go ahead, Paul.
I just want to know, have you analyzed Kirby Smart's clapping technique that apparently goes like this while he's yelling timeout?
Yeah, that was insane. That was insane. I can't believe that he got away with that. It's just like, come on. I know that realistically, like, it's not like the officials are gonna like review it in the box. Like that's not really something that can be overturned. I don't know, but like, come on. It's just embarrassing for the league, right? It's embarrassing for the SEC to get got like that. And it didn't make a huge impact on the actual game, but it's the principle of it all. So if I were the SEC, I would have put out some sort of reprimand. I'm not saying you have to be fined or anything like that, but it's just ridiculous that happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the last 2 minutes of that game in the first half was just horrible. But Shahan, also sorry about the passing of your grandmother. Wanted to pass that along. Our thoughts and prayers with you and the family. Thanks for your time this week.
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Shahan Jaraja, CBS Sports. John Talty around the corner. We have a lot to get to. And this is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center between Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco, with Cheyenne and Joshua running the mothership, so to speak. 48-foot walk-in humidor. Last week, I guess it was perhaps on Thursday or Friday, I went by there and got myself some cigars for the weekend, playing golf a couple of 3 days in a row. And I got La Fontana, which is a very underrated, I think people know it who understand cigars, but it's kind of like a Rocky Patel type feel to it and taste to it as well. And bought myself a couple of Torpedo La Fontanas too. It's got great brands, Macanudo and Padron and Cohiba and more. Fresh coffee beans, they'll grind them for you right there. And they have pipes and accessories too. And of course, they also have what you want when it comes to what you need as accessories, humidors. How do you keep the humidor, the moisture and humidifier going the way it's supposed to be? They have all of that. Just ask them, Cheyenne and Joshua, Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive, Valley Mills, and Waco.
Is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. you can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code SPORTS365 to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code SPORTS365. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money.
SoftwareDeals.com is here for one reason: to partner with IT professionals and provide them with fantastic software and licensing at ridiculously low prices. We don't have the overhead of a multinational, publicly traded tycoon corporation. We can afford to give those savings to you and your buyers. We know the struggles of small businesses and what it takes to stay afloat in a competitive marketplace.
A leader within the industry, Respawn fuses more than 75 years of ergonomic expertise with gaming culture to create best-in-class chairs. We believe that comfort and performance should be inclusively designed into every gaming chair we create, which is why we're immersed in the gaming community. Respawn is for every gamer. Our products are for professionals and casual players and everyone in between. We don't just make good-looking gear, we bring experience. Visit respawnproducts.com today and find your chair for the next great adventure.
At Prime Putt, we obsessed over every little detail, working with experts to innovate something as simple as a putting mat. We focused on the things that mattered most to golfers, wanting to lower their scores, perfect feedback, developing good form, lifetime durability. Prime Putt is a mat that will perform perfectly and last forever. PrimePutt.com.
What do you want? What's that really good non-alcoholic beer I keep hearing about?
Do you have that really great non-alcoholic beer that I keep seeing?
You mean athletic? You're looking at it.
It's athletic. Ask for it.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
So the story of James Franklin, of course, reverberates throughout the country. Any coaching change does that. And so that's going to be interesting to watch. And, of course, we've seen some names. The first name I thought about was not Matt Rule at Nebraska. It was Matt Campbell at Iowa State as a possibility. Of course, there are other, perhaps even bigger fish to fry there, too. We're now joined by John Talty, CBS Sports, who joins us on 365 Sports. And, John, if you were the AD at Penn State, would you make this decision, that kind of buyout, with a guy with a hell of a record, without knowing who your next coach would be?
I think it's possible that you have to, because I think some of this stuff is just fluid. And, what I mean by that is there are guys who at this point in the season might look like great candidates and fade down the stretch. And there are other candidates who you might not be thinking much about. And by the end of the season, they're leading a hot program that might be a playoff contender. But I think you have to have at least a good idea of which direction you're going. And I think they have a strong sense of what they want. The question is just whether they can get what they want. And I think if you especially are looking for an upgrade over a guy who went to the national semifinals a year ago, there's just a very small pool of candidates that I think could possibly fit that criteria. We understand that Penn State's very willing to spend money on this hire. We know they're obviously willing to spend a lot of money to make James Franklin go away. So I think they'll be aggressive in going after candidates. I think you probably feel like you have to kick the tires on at least a few people just to see if they're potentially movable. But I think it also is helpful sometimes to know, all right, if I maybe miss on ABC, where is my line of demarcation where I'm not going past it? And I would think that Penn State has a pretty good sense of where that line is going to be.
What do you think that Penn State pulling this plug does for other guys around the country at programs like a Billy Napier or a Mike Norvell who have not accomplished near what James Franklin has, seeing as their fan bases will now say, like, hey, like, hold on, if they're going to fire James Franklin, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, they're saying like all politics are local politics, right? So I think
Yeah.
every school, it's still an individual decision, and every school's financial situation can be different. I think that Florida State paying Mike Norvell $50+ million to leave is a lot harder for Florida State than it is for Penn State, just from some of where they stand from a financial standpoint, what they're trying to do at those different individual campuses. But I do think that Penn State getting out in front of this thing makes it easier in some ways for some of these other programs to pull the plug if they need to, just in the sense that no one, to my knowledge, and I don't want to jinx this, but I would be surprised if anyone else spends 50, if not 50 or more million on a buyout. So anyone coming after this is most likely going to be below that, maybe half it, if not more. So I think it gives you some cover in that sense, just from a national standpoint. But I do think that, there's a lot of big time programs that might still have to make moves. Florida is one of them. Auburn, Wisconsin. There's a couple programs that we're keeping an eye on to see what they might do. And maybe it does make it a little bit more palatable for some of them. But I still think it's kind of individual in terms of their booster base, their cash on hand, and all those other kind of things that you might put into the equation.
John, is Curt Cignetti the belle of the ball now? I mean, I know you guys have had some reporting and some writing already about Cignetti and kind of what it would take and, all of that. But, I mean, gosh, is he just like the face of the carousel at this point, or just the face of the coaches that everybody's, like, I guess, wanting to try and land and, catch a hot streak like Indiana has?
Yeah, I mean, he's, I think, probably the best hire in maybe a decade that any program has made. When you understand the context of where Indiana has been and where they are right now, it's truly unbelievable. But I think it also shows what's capable of happening when you have the proper, and this is a word that everyone overuses, but I think Indiana is a great example of when it's actually playing out. When you have the proper alignment from the president, who's very heavily invested in wanting football to be good, to the AD who wants it to be successful. And of course, you got to catch this incredible coach who brought the right players, the right staff with him from James Madison, and had unbelievable success in Indiana. So he's the name that I think every search is going to have near the top of their list. I think it's also, and I wrote about this today at CBSSports.com, I think it's also people just expect, we can coach Steele from Indiana. That's a basketball school. Like, we're better than them. And I understand that notion, but I think what people maybe don't understand is that this is not the old Indiana. Curt Cignetti is already making $8.3 million a year. He'll get a $1 million retention bonus at the end of November. He has an $11 million staff pool, which is at the very top in the country. He was able to hold on to his defensive coordinator, who now makes $2 million a year, and Bryant Haynes. So they're investing major money. One of my colleagues, Richard Johnson, talked to Mark Cuban last week. Mark Cuban's given money now. He's an Indiana alum. Indiana has some real money, and they want football to be successful. So it's going to be very hard, in my opinion, and from talking to different people, to pull him out of Bloomington. He's in a good spot. It's not to say he'll never leave, but I think he has shown what is possible at a school like Indiana when you have all the proper investment, and that you do not have to go to a quote-unquote blue blood to be successful. I mean, they went to the playoffs a year ago. They're on pace to do it again. They might go undefeated this season if you look at the rest of their schedule, possibly getting a first-round bye or a home playoff game. That's back-to-back potentially playoff appearances for the Indiana Hoosiers. Why leave that scenario to maybe go to a place like Florida, which would die for those results, that has a much, no matter what Curt says, a much harder schedule week in and week out in the SEC, more pressure. Like, sometimes you think about, like, I'm in a great spot right now. Why do I have to leave this that's been so great to me to go to a place that's more pressurized and maybe has similar level of resources as what I'm getting already at Indiana?
It's there are surprises occasionally, and the playoff maybe opens up that, as TCU, even though they were blown out in the championship game, proved in 22. But you hear about that the bigger are getting bigger, richer, whatever. But Indiana and Texas Tech, and no matter how they've done it, to me, that's refreshing as hell, John, with what we see as the super conferences in the future and much more.
Parity's great. I think look at why, in part, the NFL is so great is that on any given week, it seems like any team can win. And, I'm unfortunately a long-suffering New York Jets fan, so it does not apply to my team, but every other team typically feels like they have a shot. And you see a lot of changes year over year. I mean, yes, the Chiefs are in it every year, but it feels like year to year, there's a lot of teams that go in and out of the playoffs, and that's fun. It's great to see teams that have a shot to win beyond just the same team over and over again. I mean, I covered a lot of the Alabama dynasty on a personal level. A lot of fun to cover national championships every year, but I don't know that that's necessarily great for the sport. And I think especially, where things stand in college sports right now, getting more, not only fan bases but also like markets involved. I can remember talking to Greg Sankey, and he's made this point publicly, like part of his concern and reason why he wanted to expand the playoff was like he was worried that we're going to lose the West Coast. We're going to lose some of these areas of the country because they're not putting teams in this 14 playoff, and they're going to stop tuning in. And I think there was some truth to that. And I think having a Texas Tech involved, having Oregon, having Indiana, and on, there's other programs that are trying to level up as well. Illinois has had some moments in the last 2 years. Like, I think that's healthy for the game. You've seen things kind of flatten out a bit where there's maybe not that super dominant team the way we've seen with Bama and Georgia and some of these others in the last decade or so, but there's more teams who feel like they have a shot. And I think that's great for the sport. I also think it does make it easier for some of these coaches to decide, hey, I've got a great path to making the playoff of where I'm at. I don't necessarily have to jump to this other school that maybe 20 years ago felt like gave me a better shot to be a national champion.
Yeah, there's not that this school is bad for me anymore. Like it now I've done, I can't do anything more here. Now that probably still exists in the group of six, but as long as you have a president and an AD that supports you and can help you get the money you need, I don't see any reason to, just try to be, I know this is a basketball reference, but like a Larry Brown hopper, to like, I'll go here and here and here. Like, just stay where you are until they get tired of you.
Well, and even to your point, like, I'll give you a good example at the G6 level. Like, John Summerall at Tulane, from what I've been told, is making about $4 million a year at Tulane, G6 level. That's great money. I mean, that's not that far off than some of the lower P4s, what they're paying. And so what that affords you to do is to be patient. You can say, you know what, I've got a shot at making the playoff through that, that G6 playoff spot. I'm making really good money. I get to live in New Orleans. It's a great city. Being able to recruit pretty well based on kind of my recruiting base. Like, I don't need to just jump at the first Power 4 job that comes my way. I can wait and try to stay for maybe one of the better P4 jobs. And so I think it's just across the board, you're seeing some more patience from some of these guys. Ryan Silverfield at Memphis has been there for a while now. He's a candidate seemingly every year. He will be again. Maybe this is the year that he leaves. But when you're able to be a top 25 team at a Memphis, at a South Florida, at a Tulane, gives you some patience to say, all right, I've got it rolling pretty good right now. I don't need to go for the first thing. So I do think the era of having to jump just to make more money is kind of over at this point. When, again, you can make close to $9 million at Indiana. That's unbelievable. And that's SEC caliber money. And so certainly there's going to be caps at different schools where if you want to truly make that elite money, you have to jump. Certainly there are still natural advantages that programs like Penn State, programs like Florida are going to have over some of these other programs. But you also, I think, have to weigh that quality of life. And, to kind of circle back with some of how we started here, like, some of that, if he gets offered the job, and I know he's going to be a top candidate at Penn State, Matt Rule probably has to think about, like, I've got a great life in Nebraska. I've gotten this thing kind of back and rolling, not maybe to the peak of what Tom Osborne was doing, but I have restored, some credibility and stability here. My kids can go to the games, as he said the other day. My wife loves living here. Like, do I want to leave that for a job that after this guy just took them to a national semifinal, he gets fired 6 games into the following season? Like, those things I think all can start factoring in when you're already making a lot of money and you're pretty happy with where you are.
John, thank you very much, buddy. Good for, time. And the rule thing is interesting because Franklin couldn't win big games. Rules 2-23. Now, Temple, Baylor, and at Nebraska, all of them were rebuilds, but his record against the top 25 is not as good as James Franklin's. And so, yes, he's as an alum. He played there, all of that, but that will be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it there. And I think certainly Penn State has more resources than those places do.
Sure.
I mean, this is a job that I know he's had his eye on. He has an incredibly close relationship with Penn State AD Pat Kraft. They still vacation together. They started doing that back in the Temple days when Pat Kraft wasn't even the AD yet. From my understanding, they were vacationing on the Jersey Shore, which is a place that I love as well as a New Jersey native. But so they have this extremely close relationship. And it's why, again, people have told me that Matt's the guy to keep an eye on. I got that even before James Franklin was fired. I had people telling me, hey, things are afoot here. Keep an eye on Matt Rule. So I think there is reason why so many believe that Matt Rule has a decent, strong, whatever word you want to use, possibility to be the next Penn State head coach. But again, I'll just give an example here. I've watched a decent amount of Nebraska's games so far this season, and including watching their game against Maryland the other day, where they probably should have lost that game, could have lost to Cincinnati. That starts changes the tenor of the conversation, especially with the stat that you just used. So I think the schedule sets up very nicely for Nebraska to keep winning. I think they can easily be a 9 or 10 win team at the end of the season, which would be an incredible year for Nebraska given where they've been over the last decade plus. But if it goes the other way and they don't win another game and they're 5-7 or whatever it is at this point, like, I don't know how you can sell that higher to the fan base. So you can look at where things are right now on October 14th and think, all right, this is one of the top guys, a couple other names as well that I think are going to be in that mix. But how things play out over the rest of the year can have an impact on whether you can sell that to a fan base that clearly made it known that what James Franklin was doing, which was at a very high level to a lot of programs, was not good enough. And you have to be able to sell to them, the guy that I got you is better than the one I just fired and spent $50 million to leave.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. John Talty with us all the time. Has some great information, stories, and including the coaching carousel. Real quick question, and we go to Craig and off the radar after that. How do you make that hire? It's mid-October. Can you wait without anyone knowing about making the hire? And when a team that you're plucking a coach from has 5, 6, 7, maybe how many games left in the season? 9 Division I schools right now are looking for a head coach. It's Joey McGuire leaving mid-season in 21. He wasn't the head coach. He needed to get where he needed to get to kind of do some reconnaissance. So that one was even unique back then. And now you have 9 of them available this early in the season.
And I don't think most of them, like Penn State, if you want a playoff coach, you're not going to fill that right now. You're not going to fill it right now. That's for sure.
No, I don't think so either. When we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. I don't know what day it was last week, but I was kind of looking inside my refrigerator. I was like, man, I don't have anything to cook for dinner tonight. So I was going to order something online. Was I going to use DoorDash, or was going to call a place that I know I could have a nice pizza waiting and ready for me in about 30 minutes or so? And I called Marco's Pizza, and the location delivered it to me. And, of course, it was a fantastic pizza. I love the all-meat pizza, Marco's Pizza, thin crust. And yeah, I'll throw a little bit of those red peppers on top. There are so many options. How many different pizzas you can make, or they can make for you to pick up, or you can order online and have them deliver it. Call them and have them deliver it. It's up to you on what you want to do, and they have the app as well. Marco's Pizza, the fastest growing pizza brand in America. 5 locations in Waco and 1 near you at marcos.com.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. Special is subject to credit approval and membership eligibility. Visit GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. Taking a look at a grab bag of stories a couple times a week and talking college football as it applies. And I think it applies here, carrying over our conversation from the last segment, talking with John Talty about the various coaching carousel news and touching on Matt Rule. We've gone nearly 2 hours, and we have yet to get your opinion on the rumors surrounding Matt Rule, your friend, and your favorite team, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And I was just curious coming in today of the things we were going to talk about, what your thoughts were on the entire situation. No stranger to Matt Rule rumors because it was a constant when he was in Waco. It was a constant even with Carolina. I'm sure they probably had their times where, oh no, the Jets might come calling or something, but it's been something that's been around him for quite a while. So you see where they are, you see where he's trying to take them, you see all the landscape and all the things you pointed out in that interview with Talty. What are your thoughts on Matt Rule?
I will slash his freaking tires. But seriously, though, here's the problem with this. It's never a good time. They're 5-1. They've won a couple of games they normally lose. Maybe Cincinnati, maybe Michigan State, maybe even last year. Last week. I still think they're just like an 8-4 type cute and cuddly team, if that. But they're about to play a team that has owned them. Minnesota has owned him with row your boat. 5 in a row, 8 of 11. That's why Nebraska has not been very good, because they can't beat the middle tier teams in the Big 12, much less the other ones. It's a distraction. We know Matt has said what he said about Baylor. He was asked about Baylor. Then it's a constant. Here's what he's never done. How many years was he at Temple, Paul and Craig?
I believe it was 3 or so, something like that.
How many years was he at Baylor?
It's 3 or so.
Yeah. What year is it at Nebraska?
3.
Is it his fault that Penn State fired James Franklin?
No.
Is it his fault that he might be wanted?
No.
But if they
yes,
fired
he's good.
Yeah, well, and he said in his press conference, I listened to it, it's a compliment. Yeah, it is. Just like if Eli Drinkwitz has name come up, it's a compliment to what Missouri's doing too. But I don't know what he's going to do. I have not reached out to him. I will, but I haven't. I think it's the timing sucks at any time, but he played for Paterno. He's a walk-on. He's like their version of Rudy, or the 12th man at A&M. So all of that's got to be something emotionally. Plus the AD are great friends, as Talty mentioned as well. I don't know if he's done enough to be able to, no matter where he's from, to be the guy that replaces somebody that was 104 and 45 or something.
Yeah, I would not feel great about this if this is, in fact, the direction they go if I was a Penn State fan. I would be a little concerned with all of that money spent to just get a guy who's less proven. I think that sounds crazy, and the fact that we're talking about it is crazy. Now, they could always pull some ace card out of their sleeve, and voila, here's just name a guy that would be a splash. But right now, it's everybody pointing towards Matt Rule is like, he's the lead candidate. He's the lead candidate. And I get the connections and all that. And I actually do believe him this time when he says, like, oh, well, this is the only job that I would take this job for.
Yeah, you should have said that when he was at Temple and Baylor.
Well, he didn't mean it if he would have said it then. Yeah. So I think that at some point the guy's got to stop moving around and actually build a program and let it get into year 4 and 5. I would love to see what that looks like. I think there's just as good of a chance he gets that Penn State job and then is out by year 3. And then we're talking about another time where he's gone 3 years, or who knows, maybe he's exactly what they needed. I wish him the best, whatever ends up happening. But yeah, I was curious your thoughts on it. So annoyed. And
yeah, it's annoyed. I listened to it. We've heard that before. I believe him when he says what he's saying, but listen, he hasn't proven yet at Nebraska that he can win there. They're 5-1. Who have they beaten?
That's
the
what I
one
was saying
top-ranked team, a top 25 team, Cincinnati. They're both 24 and 25. They lost to Michigan at home. If I'm Penn State, because of the connections and all that, and they love each other, he and the AD, that's great. I get that too. I would like to see whatever he wants to be, but I don't think he's proven himself yet at Nebraska, much less going to Penn State to do it.
But sometimes just because you guys love each other and want to work, think this, we can do this at Penn State together, doesn't mean it's the best idea.
Okay, let me ask you guys this. I knew I was going to do this when I got to it. Name me guys that there's about 8 or 9 that went back to their alma mater and were not just good, but very successful at their school.
I'd have an easier time naming the guys that weren't.
Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech.
Kingsbury at Texas Tech. Or, all right, you have Paul Bear Bryant.
Yeah.
You have Steve Spurrier.
Okay.
All right. You have the least of the list would be David Shaw at Stanford, who had a really good record there.
Yeah.
But there are also some flops when you go back to your alma mater. And Craig, you mentioned one of them, Cliff Kingsbury.
Every Michigan coach,
except Harbaugh.
Except Harbaugh, between
the
Lloyd
Michigan
Carr
man,
and Harbaugh. Yeah. Rich Rodriguez was the only non-Michigan man. Now, look, Sharon Moore's not a Michigan man either. And so, when they eventually fire him one day, they'll say that's why. But
how about Scott Frost in Nebraska?
Scott Frost in Nebraska. Yeah, there you go. How about Matt Luke at Ole Miss? There's been some that just haven't done very well at their alma mater. I don't care what he does. Honestly, I'm kind of worn out by the fact that it's this week because of that they're on the cusp of doing something pretty good. But they're not competing at the highest level right now at Nebraska. And I don't know honestly, if they ever will. If anyone can, maybe he's the one, but we said that about Scott Frost.
Yeah, I mean, I wish him well. I just would be a little bit nervous if I was a Penn State fan that we pulled all of this together and executed this just to turn around and hire Matt Rule. But maybe Matt Rule is the secret key that unlocks everything. We shall see on that.
Kirby Smart, Georgia. Jim Harbaugh, Michigan. Mike Gundy, he's had a hell of a run until this year at Oklahoma State. Were the other ones that I also wanted to mention. So.
Yep. So there's some other examples of varying degrees of success. So it's worked and it's failed, like everything else in human existence. But we'll see on this case, or in this case, here over the next few weeks. Meanwhile, last night, I know we'll talk to John McClain about some, if not all of this, coming up in the show later on. But last night, doubleheader on Monday Night Football. Bills lose again to the Falcons, 24-14 out in Atlanta. And I don't know if you guys were annoyed as saw a few other people were with Dan Orlovsky and pronounced Bijan.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson. Now,
How
apparently that's the way it's pronounced. That's what I saw somebody say.
Yeah.
So if he's doing that, I appreciate that as somebody who tries to get names right. Jaren Kiabe Sangapulatele. I just had to say that. I hadn't said it in a couple weeks and needed to knock the rust off there. But it was very annoying, whether it was correct or not. It was very annoying to hear one guy saying it and Bijan, and the other guy's like, Bijan is da-da-da-da-da. I don't know. I feel like there's some tension with Reddick and Orlovsky on that crew. Like they kind of are almost fighting for the same territory in a way. But a nice win for the Falcons as they beat the Bills, who are just kind of, I don't know, man, just kind of middling right now.
I accidentally pocket dialed my best friend from growing up this morning, who is a diehard Bills fan. And when he's like, "Are you pocket dialing me again?" I said, "Yes, but now that we're here, we'll talk." And I said, "So how you doing?" He goes, "The Bills suck. How do you think I'm doing?" Yeah. So
yeah, there's something there. Teams have kind of figured out a little bit about him.
I think one of the great things that Josh Allen does well is spread the ball around to everybody. But they really need to find an alpha or two to like really feed him to, and then he can kind of do that elsewhere.
He also needs to hold on to the football.
Yes,
that'd be a good thing for Josh Allen to start with. But yeah, you're right. They could always use, anybody can use more talent, but he can start with not turning the ball over. I think that'd go a long way in ailing the other and helping the other things that ail him at the moment. But you had that one in the first slot, but also it was one of those random, well, I guess not so random, but one of those rare Monday Night Football doubleheader nights. So in addition to that game, Falcons over the Bills, you also had the Commanders in action, and was excited about that. I was excited to see the Commanders on Monday Night Football, and then the actual game happened, and it was a pretty maddening game to watch from a fan standpoint, but ultimately it was a Chicago Bears win, 25-24. Bears with a field goal to win it at the end. Washington looked like they had grabbed control of the game. And then, speaking of turnovers, continued to turn the ball over. Really bad night in a kind of misty, rainy game for the Commanders in terms of holding on to the football. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had another fumble, although it wasn't his fault. It was Jaden Daniels' fault, trying to put it in his belly, his chest area. Just bobbled the handoff. Had another turnover as well. And just a bad night overall.
Daniels
for
threw a
Jaden
pick in the
Daniels.
red zone, and then you're right on all they have to do. They're 3rd and 1, pick up a first down. The game is over at about the 40, and Daniels mishandled because it was wet and sloppy. But that's why you have to be more protective. That was a gut punch for Washington. At now 3 and the difference between 4-2 and 3-3 is not just one game; it's almost like 2 games. And so that was a tough loss. And for Chicago to get that kind of win after the way they lost to them last year with the Hail Mary, that's kind of a little bit sweet. It doesn't take away last year, but at least they got him back.
So he had the interception, he had the fumble on the botched handoff, and then he had the really critical fumble when all they're trying to do is basically pick up a first down to win the game, kick a field goal or something, and they win it, and they're in full control, and he just drops the football.
I still love the guy, though. He's so good.
And then the Bears get their opportunity. They take advantage of it. And so the Bears with a really nice win, and look out, but they're actually pretty good. They're
4-2, right?
Not bad. They're the
3-2.
same record as
Yeah.
well, I thought they were the same record as Washington. Maybe they're 1 loss or 1 win behind now.
They've already had their bye.
Okay, well, the 2 losses is the same. But so now Chicago is 3-2 there, you're right. And then Washington now drops to 3-3 overall. So pretty entertaining games, despite if you were annoyed by Orlovsky correctly, I guess, pronouncing Bijan's name. But certainly Bears Commanders had a lot of thrills as well, and a nice win for Chicago. Any thoughts on Monday Night Football and what comes out of it?
One of the things that disappointed me was the turnover by Jaden Daniels, that last one. But you still have to, then Chicago drilled him with the running back from Georgia, Swift.
With DeAndre Swift.
One after another, 6 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, 15 yards, field goal, chip shot.
Which shows you how good of a coach that Ben Johnson is, because DeAndre Swift has been one of the most underperforming players in the NFL.
Oh, dude, he was a badass last night.
Yeah, and he was, and last night he channeled his inner Walter freaking Payton and really stuck it to the Commanders' defense. The thing I think that sucks, especially for the Commanders, now look, the division that the Bears are in is tough. I mean, it's really tough. You've got the Packers in that division, the Lions in that division. But for the Commanders, look, the Eagles are vulnerable right now. At this very moment, they're vulnerable. Who knows how long that lasts, because they are, but they're vulnerable right now. So you can maybe make some moves. And look, the good news is they play the worst defense that's ever been defensed in the entire history of defense this week in the Cowboys.
Yes, that is true. But Cowboys looking around the division, seeing everybody lose here recently, feeling like, hey, we're still in this thing.
They play Washington this week.
We can't get off on a tangent because we don't have time to. So we'll have to hold off on the Cowboys and talk to John about that because we need to move on. But let's check out the MLB playoffs real quick, and we'll close it out with this and then get to John. Just updating things as of yesterday. Seattle thumping Toronto up in Canada 10-3 to take a 2-0 series lead in the ALCS. LA, meanwhile, handing the Brewers a 2-1 brutal loss out there in Milwaukee. So the Dodgers, the overall, I think you would say, favorites for the entire tournament, now up 1-0 as well. So tonight we'll see Game 2, Dodgers at Brewers. It'll be Yoshinobu Yamamoto for LA versus Freddie Peralta for the Brew Crew. And that first pitch is at 7:08 on TBS, True TV, HBO Max, whatever option you want through the Turner channels. You can check out this game here. And there's everything off the radar, boys. But thoughts on the Mariners going up big, or tonight, Dodgers and Brewers part 2?
What was it last night Blake Snell did that had not been done but like 3 times in forever? 8 innings, faced the minimum amount of hitters, picked off the guy that got a single in the third. It was almost Don Larson type stuff.
Well, and that's what the headline was this morning, was Larson
on Snell.
Yeah. And that was great for the Dodgers. I mean, it's miserable if you're hoping that the Dodgers don't make the World Series this year, but and the Brewers are a really good team. They have a really nice roster this year. They've been really productive all the way around. And then the Dodgers, kind of stumbled through this year by their standards, and then just knew how to get everybody healthy in, late September and October for the playoff run. And now they've got Blake Snell and Tyler Glass now, and Yamamoto and Sasaki back. Ohtani's pitching too. So, and the Mariners just absolutely shredded.
Yeah.
The Blue Jays, taking 2 at home, or on the road, but taking 2 away from the Blue Jays in Toronto. That's going to sting for the Blue Jays to get back in this thing. But I do think that when you've got a top of that lineup that's a lot better, and no Bo Bichette for the Blue Jays, when you go, a Rosarena, Raleigh, and Julio Rodriguez before you even get to Suarez and Naylor, they're really good.
Yep.
Here was the stat. Snell retired 23 of 24, picked off the only runner who reached base. So he faced the minimum 24 batters to beat the Brewers. Don Larson's perfect game for the Yankees in 56 against the Dodgers, the only other postseason start ever longer than 6 innings to face the minimum number of batters. Masahiro Tanaka also did so, but it was only 6 innings in the 2019 ALCS. So that was the Blake Snell stat, was that he faced the minimum number of 24 batters to beat the Brewers, because the only guy who got on base got picked off. So that's pretty cool there. So they'll have the night off, and they'll have Game 2 rolling out later on tonight, as I mentioned, on the Turner Network. So there's a few things off the radar, boys.
Thank you, Craig. Didn't Snell, is he another former Tampa Bay Ray?
He is.
Yeah, they just cultivate talent. When we come back, John McClain, and then we'll announce a little bit later before the top 5, the winner of the Week 7 college football pick'em contest, brought to you by North Star Funding Partners. This is 365 Sports.
Hi, I'm Dana Hassel, President and CEO of American Bank. Waco is a great place for business, and for more than 70 years, American Bank has been the bank for business. We continue to invest in our growing community with state-of-the-art branches conveniently located to serve you within minutes. Our experienced bankers, lenders, and decision makers work directly with business owners like you every day, providing tailored solutions, timely answers, and local insights face-to-face. Schedule a meeting with one of our bankers today and find out what makes American Bank the bank for your business. Member FDIC.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us, 365 Sports. John, last night, a couple of Monday night games. I'm not so sure I like having 2 on Monday, and especially the way that second one ended with the Bears in Washington. But there's already, another coach fired early in the NFL with Tennessee and the Titans. Did they not have Mike Vrabel at one point?
Yeah, of course they had Mike Vrabel. He took them to the playoffs 3 out of 4 years, AFC championship game. He got an extension after he was named coach of the year, and then he had a mediocre year and a bad year, and they fired him. Now he's coming to Nashville with a 4-2 record and has first place in the AFC South because of their tie-breaking win over Buffalo. And with him coming back to Nashville, it's going to be like Lombardi coming back to Green Bay. He's going to get a hero's welcome. And we all knew Brian Callahan was going to be fired. He was not a head coach. He didn't know the rules. His clock management was terrible. He's one of those guys, better assistant coach. Cam Ward, the first-round pick, was not showing enough improvement. They didn't have to win games, but they were not showing any kind of growth. And Mike McCoy, who was the Chargers head coach for 4 years, he's the interim, and they'll try to get a new one. I suggested John Gruden if they want to get attention. They're moving into a new stadium in 27. They need to sell suites and tickets, and I think somebody like Cliff Kingsbury will be leaving Washington for his second head coaching job. This time they'll want a proven play caller, not an offensive coordinator, from a team in which the head coach called the plays.
John, you are familiar with the Adams family, not just the old sitcom, but Bud Adams and his offspring. What is do you see any differences in the way that he did things and the way that they currently do things now, or do they pretty much do it like Bud did it?
That's a very interesting question, Paul, because Bud at times in his life would fire coaches every other year. Amy Adams Strunk is prone to listening to the people she hired. She fired their general manager, John Robinson, in the middle of the 22 season. People still don't know why. She hired 49ers personnel director Rand Carthon. He came in, backstabbed Mike Vrabel to get him out after a year. He hired Brian Callahan. Then Rand Carthon was backstabbed to get out a guy named Chad Brinker who'd come in from Green Bay. Then she gave Chad Brinker final say. He hired Mike Begonzi from the Chiefs as general manager. And when your two bosses did not hire you and your team is terrible and you don't know the rules and your clock management's terrible, you are not long for the NFL head coaching world, and that's what happened to Brian Callahan. So Amy was really popular up there when they were winning. She was out, she hung out with fans, but now she's withdrawn, of course, because she's getting crucified by the fans and the media, many of whom wanted Vrabel fired in 2023. So she's got two people in place running the show. She should listen to them. All owners should listen to the people they're paying a lot of money to make the hard decisions. If they make the wrong decisions, fire them. Don't try to do it yourself. Don't be a Jerry Jones.
John, I know a multi-Super Bowl winning coach who's already wearing kind of a shade of Titan blue that might be available for the Titans if they're interested.
And who is that?
Well, Bill Belichick, of course.
Oh, they're not hiring Bill Belichick. Ray, give me. They'd be better off hiring Jordan Hudson than Belichick. Belichick, you talk about a coach tarnishing his image for the longest time. It was, well, is it Bill or is it Tom? Well, we know pretty clear it's Tom. It was Tom. And now Belichick's career is going straight down the toilet. And it is tarnishing his image. He will get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but he will never get another NFL job, and he will never get another college job. If he wants to continue working, he'll have to go back into the media, which is what he did last year.
John, how many games overseas, in your opinion, not with what we see, but in your opinion, is the right number?
Because all the games they play overseas, and they want to go to China, and they will. Of course, it's done to expand the brand, but the reason they're doing as many is because of gambling. We as a country are way behind other countries around the world when it comes to gambling. You know, you can sit on a toilet in England and gamble on something, and and so the NFL will never admit that, but because there's so many hundreds of billions involved in gambling, that's why they're playing around the world. And I think now, for the first time, I believe there will be a Super Bowl in a country like London. We won't like it, but will we watch it? Of course we'll watch it. They want to attract more people, and what's coming also, every team will have to play a game every year in another country, and that way everybody will be giving up the same number of home games. And you know, it's worked. I mean, there's nobody who'll sit there and say it doesn't work, because every game sells out in a matter of minutes. I wonder I've always wondered what price could you put on the cheapest Super Bowl ticket and not sell it? Is it $2,000, $5,000? I've always wondered about that.
John, I actually heard Bob Sturm, a radio host up in Dallas, go along with the idea of, like you said, everybody's going to be mandated to play an international game, and that early morning window will become the new TV window where everybody plays an international, like, Sunday morning game across the league, and that's the new TV window that they could then sell to networks to build off of. Like, well, what else can we? Well, let's have a brand new TV window Sunday morning to Sunday night. What do you think about that possibility?
Oh, that's not a possibility. That's coming. That's part of that. Yeah. Every team plays overseas. And I'm eager to see what happens in China. The largest stadium Now, I can't imagine this would count. North Korea has a stadium for 150,000 for soccer. And we have no idea if they fill it up. If they don't, they lie about it. But they're not going to North Korea. They're going to go to China, and they're going to go to Beijing or Shanghai. And I Google and look at the largest stadiums around the world, and it gives me an idea where the NFL's going. If those stadiums are in good shape. And right now, everybody wants the NFL. And I'm not saying it's going to overcome soccer around the world, but the inroads that the NFL has made is shocking to people who never thought there would be the interest that there is, because those places, they know really one sport, soccer. They may know rugby or cricket, but it's soccer. It's like if we knew one sport here, then we'd all be fanatical about that sport. But I think it's great for the game. I'm for anything that gets more TV on more TV football, whether it's college or the NFL.
John, did you hear Jerry Jones saying he's really happy with the pass rushers he has and the defense he has in we've got them right where we want them kind of vibe, lulled into a false sense of security with a terrible defense?
That's the second dumbest thing I've heard Jerry say in 2 weeks. The other one was that his middle finger accidentally extended itself. And then now this one, we all know his defense is terrible, and he knows it. And I'm trying to figure out, when I saw a list of Rico Dowdle's like last 10 games, including the games he had at Dallas, how well he's done. Did they not bring him back because of money? You know, what did he get? $5 million? They wouldn't give him $5 million to come back. And I'm just stunned. He wouldn't even have started if it wasn't for Chuba Hubbard getting hurt. But did the Cowboys even try to bring him back?
Paul, you and I used to have a debate about this.
Now they said they made an offer. And look, I was of the opinion, because most of the time when the Cowboys bring somebody back like Rico Dowdle, it crashes horribly because they like their own stink too much, and they're like, we got to have this guy. He's the best, but he wasn't really all that great for him last year. He was okay, but he wasn't this good. But yeah, they said they tried, but I don't think they really tried that hard.
Well, they regret it, even though Williams has done well. Dowdle has been fantastic.
Yeah, his was it first time in forever, 200 total yards offense, back-to-back weeks. And I remember texting Paul a little bit, John, and thanks for your time today, about I just liked him. He runs hard, and then again, does that mean you're going to wear yourself out? But my goodness, he has been spectacular with Carolina.
And the Carolina Panthers have a better record than the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time, John.
Thank you, guys. Sick and Bears.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us Tuesdays in the early part of the 5 o'clock hour. Here are a couple of pictures that I was sent from the Texas Tech tailgate from last week in their win to, of course, remain undefeated. This from Kim Coulter from North Star Funding Partners. You got it, Brandon? The pictures?
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. All right, so I got to get these names right. Kim Brown, Don Murphy, Heidi Osborne, Talon, Billingsley, and the guy is Bill Murphy, who Kim and his brothers have known for 60 years. Look at the hats they're wearing. 365 Sports. They have the tailgate, right? The tailgates with 365 Sports, so we appreciate Kim for sending those pictures. Also, the winner of the North Star Funding Partners $100 Visa gift card was Pick'em, a two-way tie at the top. I was with Brian Burt. I sent Brian an email. He gave me his address from Ledyard, Iowa. He said 5 miles from the Minnesota border, loves watching the show. So Brian Burt, congratulations. Craig, you were 8-2. So is Dave Loverud. Scotty and Paxton were all 8-2 as well.
All right. Well, seems like I'm in good company, and just a game off of the leads. Not bad, but appreciate Kim as always for putting together those gift cards and also for promoting us, especially out there in Lubbock. Certainly appreciate all his time and effort and support of this show. So, yeah, glad to have the contest going on. Glad to have people rocking some 365 sports caps and continue to spread the word like Kim. We'd appreciate it.
We will, Paul, we will put the link up at some point, maybe here tomorrow. Get the link up. I've already made my picks for week number 8. There are some tough ones coming up. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5. The poll results also at some point. Spin the wheel and quizzes. We appreciate your time. Please, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, we appreciate you would, and also hit the like button. And this is 365 Sports.
Dog deserves a second chance. In a loving home, they'll brew a second cup. And let's change the world for every pup. One cup at a time. Visit us at groundsandhoundscoffee.com.
For the past 4 years, we have trusted Jackery to keep us powered while on the road. The Explorer 5000 Plus provides 5,040 watt hours of portable power to pair it with the smart transfer switch to power your entire house off the Explorer 5000 Plus.
When you view the glass half full, the little things become magical. 10% of profits go to help kids heal. So choose optimism and make the magic real. Visit lifeisgood.com.
For those who want the best, look no further than the Founders Series by Louisiana Grills. If you want the best food, then you need the best grill. Louisiana Grills.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. Oregon State replacements. Look, we talked about Penn State. Well, Trent Bray got fired as well. Now, look, this Oregon State job is wildly different than it used to be in the Pac-12 collapse days. This is a fan base that really does like football. And if you find the right guy, you can have a lot of success there. But you're essentially in a new conference, even though it's got an old name, starting in 2026. So what do you need to do? You need to pick guys who are developers, winners, and program builders, because you have to look at this as almost we're starting from square one. New conference, new coach, new players, all those things. So who are the best to do that? Let's go to number 5. Kirby Moore, brother of Kellen, head coach of the Saints, a Northwesterner in his own right. He is currently the offensive coordinator at Mizzou. And Mizzou has a fantastic offense. He is interviewed for head coaching jobs already. He was up for some Mountain West jobs. Look, the Pac-12 and the Mountain West are essentially the same thing right now. So if you want a good guy who's ready to come in and be a head coach and lead your program, Kirby Moore is that. But his star is also on the rise. So if you're going to get him, it should be right now. Number 4, Bobby Hauck from Montana. Again, from the region. Pretty much recruits not in the same pool, but in the adjacent pool to you. He knows the talent. He knows the high schools. He knows all those things. The Grizz are always badass. They win titles. They go to the playoffs. They do that at the FCS level. This is your one of these, like a couple guys I'm throwing out there, are Lance Leipold, Chris Kleiman type hires, which is what Oregon State really needs to focus on, which could be really good. Actually, all the rest of these guys on this list fit in that category, like this one. Number 3, Tim Plow from UC Davis. Guess what? All they've done is win since he's taken over the last 2 years. He's got a 16-4 record so far as their coach. Why not give this guy a shot? He's been at Boise State. He's been around. He fits the conference. He's a winner. Also, this is an older picture. You're in Oregon. He's got a very Oregon mustache right now, a total Oregon mustache. I will tell you that it's a fit. Just trust me. But UC Davis is winning, and these are the kind of guys you need to go after. Number 2, Nick Rolovich. You may remember he was the coach at your rival school, Oregon State, at Wazoo. They're there with you in the foxhole of the new Pac-12. He was fired for his stance on vaccines because he wouldn't get it, and it was religious. Like, okay, I'm not going to adjudicate that. I personally disagree with his stance. That's all well and good. Whatever. That's for another day. But if we're going to start picking at coaches for their beliefs about one certain thing, there's a lot of coaches out there that probably have the same kind of beliefs. Nick Rolovich is a good guy at heart. He wasn't doing it maliciously. You can believe what you want to believe. Either way, this segment is not for me to convince you. What I can tell you is that Nick Rolovich is a good coach, and Nick Rolovich should be a head coach again somewhere. Currently, right now, he's at Cal as a special assistant. I think he could do a great job at Oregon State. He knows exactly what you need there, having already been at Wazoo. Plus, don't you think he might want to get at Wazoo a little bit? Just a little bit. Vengeance, spite, that's a goodness motivator if anything else in sports, as long as it doesn't overtake you. And number one, my man, Jason Eck at New Mexico. Look, he's had success at Idaho. He had success at South Dakota State. He has had success. He beat the brakes off UCLA earlier this year. This guy's ready for any job that you're going to throw at him. Now, he's just been at New Mexico for a year, but you're Oregon State. You're a considerably better job than New Mexico historically. Bring in a guy who can help you win. Jason Eck's the dude. Hire Jason Eck, and you can thank me later, Oregon State. Although any of the other four guys on this list would fit well as well. So I'll take my consulting fee whenever you'd like to send it to me. It is just 5% of the coaching salary that you hire them for. And I will share it with Garrett and Andrew and no one else. Too bad for Brandon. He's not back from vacation yet. That's going to do it for the top five. And now it's time for Andrew Valade's Crazy Carnival.
Okay, wait a minute. But Brandon is back.
He wasn't when I taped it.
Okay. All right. Well, that wasn't live.
That was not. I mean, as you can tell.
All right.
The shirt is different. Hold on. We're not there. See, he's already forgotten. We do the wheel first. Oh, yeah. By the way, watch That Damn Fantasy Show on Thursday when it drops. And me and Caroline Wolf will give you the latest tips in all things fantasy football. So,
for a time?
It drops on Thursdays. I don't know. What time do you drop it on Thursdays, Garrett? About noon.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Spin it.
Yeah. Okay.
Can't even see the wheel. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Today's topic is which color looks the best on college football uniforms? Can't say black or white.
Red.
I think red. I think red just jumps out, whether you're Indiana or whoever you are.
Texas Tech,
Nebraska,
Oklahoma to
Houston.
some extent. I mean, if you start doing shades of reds,
Utah,
then you definitely have the market cornered. I feel like blue is very hit or miss. I think, and blue doesn't work as well with everything. Now, red, you can't just throw anything on there like lime green or nothing. But
like Louisville's red,
Wisconsin,
it's hard to screw up a red. Like if you have red uniforms and you have bad uniforms, then you have a bad designer.
Yeah,
because red's pretty salty, and I think it's like the top color.
Yeah, I think
pops on the screen.
I'm gonna say secondary. Well, see, you can't because like it really is red because like you can look at there's plenty of people with gold helmets. But then they try to do gold uniforms and they don't really pop. So, yeah, I think it's red. Yeah, you nailed it, Craig.
Gold like banana yellow gold or gold like Notre Dame old gold
Notre Dame old gold I like. Navy
I do
gold.
Too. I don't like the banana yellow.
I don't like the banana yellow. Like if you're doing actual like gold and not
right. I don't love West Virginia's all yellow uniforms or Baylor's all yellow or anybody else that has worn those. I suppose there's maybe some that have been okay, but those are like my least favorites of all the combinations that they could throw out. So yeah, I'll go red, and like that includes the various shades of that. I think once you incorporate all the shades,
crimson,
of course,
okay,
all the shades of red, maroon, whatever. I know that like with A&M, that's stretching it a little bit. So if you don't want to count that, that's fine. But Oklahoma is closer to red than anything else.
All right,
so,
I agree.
And if you don't want to count them, it's still red.
Yeah. I even though they're a shell of themselves, I love the Nebraska red with white, whatever it is. I just love that combination. Houston's colors are dynamic too. All right. The trivia questions today. Quizzes. Why are boxing gloves traditionally red?
Speaking of,
never thought about that.
Stand out in the ring, hide the blood on TV. Color of strength, red dye is cheap and durable. Hiding the blood on TV, like I don't know how long they've been traditionally red, but TV was black and white for so long, and before that boxing was there and there was no TV. So that one would seem like not a great reason.
But like I just Googled.
It's actually the one I was going to pick.
Don't Google anything, Smokey.
No, not for this answer.
Okay.
Not for the answer, but it says traditionally red. I just Googled Ali Frazier, 1971. The gloves were black.
Okay.
All right, Craig, what do you want to say?
I don't even know where to go with. Okay, well, hold on. Let me look it up real quick. I was going to go. No kidding. Yeah, we're joking here. I was going to say it's to hide blood on TV. I have no idea.
I agree. I think people were so just they would be appalled.
All right, we'll say hide blood on TV then. Oh wow! Okay.
There you go.
All right, thanks, guy. Thanks for talking me out of that.
That is Ali against Norton in that picture. Yep. All right, 42% got it right. Next one, Mr. Valet.
Well, we didn't go back so we can read and say it. There's all this work he does, and then you just lightning bolt right through it.
You guys won't let me put graphics with that many words on it, but go ahead.
In the 1950s, ox blood red gloves helped mask blood and make boxing look cleaner for TV audience. While it's also true that red conveys power and aggression, giving fighters a psychological edge that's secondary effect rather than the main reason today amateur boxers use differentiating colors like red, blue, black, or white to help greater distinguish fighters in the ring. So
all right.
Go. All right. Now we can go to the next one.
Next one. Trivia. This Texas town is where the first modern baseball glove was produced. Got to be Nocona.
I would say Nocona because most people have not heard of Nocona.
Or that's where they make boots. Nocona boots.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, that would mean that there's leather there, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I said Nocona.
Yeah.
And I have no idea if I'm right. Craig?
Yeah, I'll go Nocona because that's a brand of glove. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. There we go.
Nocona. Athletic Goods Company started in Nocona, Texas, began making baseball gloves in 1934, initially producing wallets, purses, and belts. The company changed its name to Nocona with a K because the U.S. Patent Office wouldn't allow Nocona as a trademark since it was also the name of the town. There we go.
All right. Good stuff, Andrew.
Yeah,
even though we got
I
them
like
both
those.
right.
Are very nice. Thank you very much. Now to the poll results. Who's the best fit to lead Nebraska next? What name do you think I picked?
I bet you picked Kurt Cignetti.
No, I actually said Matt Campbell.
Okay.
I think he kind of fits that type mentality that they have. I said Matt Campbell.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could pick a guy, I'd want it to be Kurt Cignetti.
Absolutely.
But I don't think he cares about the Nebraska job, nor should he. I mean, Matt Rule, I would like to see him stay in place and actually stay somewhere and build something. And I get that he builds like the first and second floors, but he doesn't complete the building.
Yeah.
He does like the first 3 floors. Then he's like, all right, you guys got the rest of it. And I left you a good foundation. We've never seen him like go floor 4, 5, 6, put the roof on.
He's like a bad contractor that
business.
doesn't finish the job.
But people keep hiring him. This is one where I'd like to see Matt Rule stay and finish out Nebraska. But yeah, if Penn State could choose, it's Cignetti. And then you're probably kind of flipping a coin with Rule and Campbell. And I feel like for the Penn State fans, they'd be more excited about Rule than they would Campbell. But I think Campbell would be a really solid choice, although Iowa State kind of flailing at the precisely wrong time for him to get like a lot of momentum riding into the conversation. So they done it like a month ago. They're like, yeah, Matt Campbell, like Iowa State's 4-0, 5-0, but now it's like, oh, well, they're kind of sliding a little bit. So
look, Manny Diaz is doing an okay job this year at Duke, and a good job. And he got kind of run out at Miami, because, they really wanted Mario Cristobal and decided they were going to go get him. But then, it's weird. They said, okay, we're going to get Mario Cristobal. But I wonder how Manny Diaz would have done at Miami if they just would have given him all the money they've given Mario Cristobal for, all the accoutrements around it. So it's kind of a weird thing to okay, hey, you're fired, 2 years into you being here, get out the door. We want Mario Cristobal to be the guy because he was on the elite, the U teams. But we're also going to give him a lot more than we were giving you in the first place.
They may have made the right hire based on what
I'm not saying that they did, but I do wonder if you just said, hey, we're going to support you in a way that you haven't been supported.
The connection to Diaz was he was at Penn State prior to taking the job at Duke for a couple of years as the offense or defensive coordinator. All right. If you could only win one, I think this is as easy as it could possibly be. If you could only win one, would you rather be the national championship MVP or a Heisman Trophy winner?
I'd rather have the ring. No, I'd rather be the Heisman winner. I think I'd rather be the Heisman winner. It's a very elite club.
Personally, if I wasn't trying to be selfish and looking out for doing the best thing overall to help not just myself, then I'd want a national championship MVP. But yeah, if I wanted the spotlight on me and I wanted endorsement deals and I wanted to be in the Heisman commercial, then the Heisman winner would be what I'd want to be. So it's do you want to be more of a standout on your own, then you pick the Heisman. But I'd much rather be a national champion and have that ring on my finger. The trophy would be cool as hell. Don't get me wrong. But I just think to say you're a national champion's a cool deal. And yeah, obviously the Heisman, thousands of fewer people can say that you're the Heisman Trophy winner. But I don't know. It just depends on your preferences because I can see this both
Either
ways.
one's good.
Yeah.
By the way, it's a great. So how many guys who are in pro football or baseball or whatever Hall of Fame always talk about how they didn't win a ring?
A lot. I mean, yeah. You guys are probably. I'm torn on this one. It's tough.
No, I mean, from an individual point of view, it'd be way better to be the Heisman Trophy winner.
Absolutely.
We're not going around being like, hey, that dude was the backup O-lineman on the Florida Gators. But it's pretty damn cool he's a national champion.
Yeah.
So,
65% said MVP of a championship.
Yeah, I think to be a part of that ride, and mostly those things coincide too. So,
and they're not talking about the backup offensive lineman, but it's a great point. But about being the championship MVP, that means you might not. I don't think they're going to give a lineman, but that's a great point. The Heisman winner is isn't that eternal?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I picked it. And two, Craig did make the point, and I do think that's a good one of maybe I'd be in that anyway. So yeah,
at least probably playing for it in most years.
And I've always wanted to be in any club that had O.J. Simpson in it.
Yeah, sure. Good company. Definitely. I mean, this is a win-win.
Great
is
question.
What it is.
By the way,
I mean,
Andrew.
it's a win-win, and so I'd take either one if I could have them because I don't have either one and never will. So
I wonder how
give me
many
one of them.
Heisman Trophy winners that didn't win the national title would answer what would they have had? Would you rather give that up for a ring? That'd be interesting. Andrew Valet, very nice, good, really good. I'm sorry I didn't read all of that one answer. I will learn from that. Garrett Ross has been focused with his White Sox hat on. He's in a baseball mode with the playoffs. And Brandon Rowe back with us at least for a few days. Congratulations on the big week in New Mexico. And prior to that, getting married. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thanks to all of you who watch us, whether Twitter or on YouTube. We're back tomorrow. Thanks for your time. Good night, 365 Sports.